And hopefully everybody can hear us as well. If you can't, the stream mutes by default. Really? Just stop, Mike.
I apologize.
You're fine.
Alright, so we're good to go ahead and get started. First things first, for those of you on the stream who don't already, you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself a GitHub account if you don't have one. You're going to follow along. If you just want to watch as we go, you're going to need this address up here, github.com/Michael T. Lombardi/getting-GitHub. That'll have the instructions, so if I go too fast or lose you, you can follow up on there. So, first thing to talk about tonight is what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Git, which is distributed version control. Specifically, I'm tailoring this discussion, this lab, this workshop to those of you who are working on Windows machines or using PowerShell. So all the advice and stuff I give is going to be mostly tailored to that, but it's all cross-platform stuff. The command line itself doesn't change between implementations, so all the workflow stuff should stay pretty much the same. The other thing to keep in mind, I'm going to be covering it from a GitHub perspective. 99.9% of this is the same if you're using VSTS or TFS or GitLab or GitT or, I don't know, are there other ones that people use?
Bitbucket.
What?
Bitbucket, yeah. People could use Bitbucket, but they shouldn't. Or HipChat, since that's being eaten by Slack now.
What?
Yep. You hear about that? HipChat's going away.
Good.
Which is great, because I don't have to use HipChat anymore. I'm super excited. Now Jira could go.
Oh, good luck with that.
So, first things first, once you're logged in, are you able to see if people on the stream are answering affirmatively? Do they have accounts, yes or no?
They said that they can see the stream a couple of minutes ago, so that was good.
People on the internet, do you have GitHub accounts? Yes or no? Answer in the comments below. Sorry. Once you're in, we're going to take a real quick look around. You also need to have a terminal of some sort, which I assume if you're on a Windows machine, you have access to PowerShell console. That's probably where we'll do all of our stuff. That's where I'm going to do my stuff today. I won't use any of my fancy nonsense. I'll just stick to the regular PowerShell console instead of being confusing. You'll need to have Git installed, which you can get with Chocolatey if you have that. The Choco install Git. If you don't, the link is on the page. You can go there to download it and install. And then once you got that, you need an editor of some sort. I could show you doing this in Notepad to stay with stuff that's in the box, but I like myself, so I'll use Visual Studio Code. And I'll suggest that you use Visual Studio Code or Sublime or Atom or literally anything but Notepad, please. But you can if you feel like that's where you're more comfortable. It's not that big of a deal. It just sometimes does terrible things to code. We're going to do a little bit of one-time setup. We're going to fork the repository, and we're going to clone that repository locally. We're going to add the remote branch for the upstream, and then everything we do after those steps is going to be a daily exercise type thing that you can repeat in order to build up experience and understanding of Git. So first things first, what you want to do, make sure, which one am I in? This is my normal account, not my other account. So we're going to want to go to the project, and you're going to want to click the fork button in the GitHub UI.
I got it.
No. And then it'll tell you it's forking the repository, and it'll only take a few seconds. Wink. Sometimes it takes longer. Okay, so that's it. Now you forked it. Notice that the name here now says Barbarian KB instead of Michael T. Lombardi. I'm using a dummy account that I don't intend to ever use again after this lab. So I've got this account here, and you'll see it says it's forked from Michael T. Lombardi, getting GitHub. This is interactive, so speak up if you get to this place or if something doesn't work for you.
Okay, what, we're forking it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the first one, you click that fork button in the top right, and then that should create this new project in GitHub.
Went from 9 to 13.
Yeah, it'll keep, it's 14 now.
Okay.
I'm going to wait about another 30 to 60 seconds to see if that number keeps popping.
15.
16,
And forking is becoming a part of the project, or
Forking,
actually?
yeah. So we'll make we'll kind of explain what forking is. So a project has what you could think of as like the canonical version of it, right? Which is like, so if you were working on Puppet, for example, Puppet Labs Puppet is the canonical version. It's the version that stuff's going to be deployed from. Now, what you do when you create a fork is you say, I want to take that code, I want to make my own copy of it, but it's in my namespace, so whatever I do here cannot blow up whatever's in that upstream namespace.
That's a one-way process.
Yeah, think of it as a child fork. Now, there's not actually anything to go between the two and say that you couldn't deploy stuff from your branch or from your fork. There's nothing to actually stop that. Git doesn't actually care. Git doesn't have a concept where it cares about any of that. But for our purposes, you just want to remember that you're always going to fork a primary project to your own namespace. And you're going to work off of your fork. This increases safety and reduces the chances that you'll accidentally nuke something if you do something absolutely silly like I've done before.
Have you done anything with open source and working projects and merging those back? Okay, we'll talk later.
All he does.
Hi, I work at Puppet. My day job is open source.
All right.
That's all I do now. So yeah, if you want, we can have more in-depth conversations about that kind of thing as well. I want to get us through some stuff so that people will kind of build a familiarity first, though. So you forked it. Great. That's pretty cool. How do I make it come down to my machine? Well, if only there was a little green button that was like, hey, what if I wanted to come down to my machine? So in Git parlance, it's called cloning, and that's what we're going to do right now. So you're going to want to pop that open, and then there's a little copy button. You could hit that, or you could just copy it yourself. And I'm going to switch over to here. You can do this anywhere on your machine that you're happy with. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do this in a temp folder. Where you do this on your machine doesn't actually matter, right? It's just a location for me to put it. I've got a bunch of nonsense that lives on my machine, so I have nothing here. Now, for PowerShell, what you can do is you can run a command called get-command, and then git. And if this comes back and finds git.exe, congratulations, you have Git installed, and you can use it. If it doesn't, the rest of this lab will probably fall apart on you really, really quickly. Because you'll be like, I want to do a Git clone, and it'll be like, I don't know what that is, sorry. So let me know if and when you discover that you have this on your machine. What's Git? It's a thing.
It's a thing?
It's a thing. It's a software.
Is it a Gitter?
Yeah, it's a Git exe. It's a Git exe.
A Git exe. Okay.
Yeah.
So can I get the Git exe?
Yeah, you gotta get it off the chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah, you use the chocolatey nougat to get the Git.
Oh, so there's, is it toffee?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's
Is there any actual candy?
There's chocolatey stickers if you want those.
So do a pull request?
Not yet. You gotta hold on. Whoa.
I just found it.
No, don't make it.
No.
You don't have any changes yet. We don't even have it local. You gotta pull it local first. So is everybody?
No, we got clone it local. Don't
Everybody
confuse terms.
well, hey, listen. we gotta. I don't know why I went Brooklyn there. We gotta get a local copy.
I gotta tell you what to do.
I got it. So what we gotta do is you gotta get the code. You gotta put it local. You gotta do some stuff. You gotta push it. You're done. Boom. No. So you need to get a copy. You need to get a copy of the repository locally. And so in Git parlance, we call that cloning, because it's taking an exact replica of the project and all of its metadata, and then making that be local. You're just going to copy it all down over the web. So you'll do git clone, and then that URL you copied earlier, you're going to want to paste that in. So careful here, because if yours by default did SSH, it's going to expect you to have an SSH key, which you might not have. So change it to HTTPS. Should be the only change that you need to make, and then it'll work fine. What it'll do here is it'll ask you for your username and password whenever you do the clone. Well, it won't ask you until you do a push. It may ask you here, depending on your projects. So pulls it down, and it brings everything in. So we'll see a couple of messages here. It says it's cloning into getting GitHub, which is a folder that it created on my file system. And then it's counting some objects. So it found 73 things. and it's compressing the objects, and then it's bringing it all down, and it says it unpacked the objects. Great. So now if I do get child item, recurse, is it measure? I can never remember. So it didn't go through the .git one because that would be ridiculous of it. So if I do we see that there's a bunch of folders here with some entries, which is how we're going to go into the lab. We've got entries for me, for Kate, for JR Leg. You can see the folders, a bunch of stuff. This is kind of a hard way to view it. So what if instead we were able to open it up in VS Code and take a look? So I'll open up that folder real quick. I apologize for how tiny and unreadable my folder structure is. So go code. I put mine in temp, psug, and then getting GitHub. Here it is. Magic, just like that. And I'll zoom this whole thing in. Hey, look. There's like files and stuff. That's cool. There's those same folders with entries inside of them. Neat. Okay, but we're not done using the command line yet. So if we do, you want to run git and then status once you're inside that folder. So I'll have to change into that folder. So let me know when you're in the folder inside of PowerShell. You can use CD as the alias change directory.
I thought all you had to do was navigate to a Git folder, and it detected that and it changed it and allowed you to use Git commands.
No, it doesn't care where you are.
Okay. I thought once you
Your
change
Git
to a
commands will fail.
repository,
Your Git commands will fail if you're not in
Okay.
an initialized repository.
I thought the look of the
That's related to PoshGit. We can install right now if everybody wants, real quick.
Okay.
Is anybody here not on PowerShell 5.1 or higher? Is anybody running on like a 2000? Oh, you know you're going to be running server OS on your laptops. Anybody not running Windows 10? What are you running?
Windows 7.
Okay. What version of PowerShell do you have?
$PS
version table will tell you.
or $host version.
No. That'll tell you the version of the console that may
5.1.
actually lie to you.
5.1.14.
Good. You're on 5.1 or higher.
I'm kidding.
Get out of here. You need to go.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, you need to leave. Okay, so if that's the case, then you can run this command. Install module poshgit force scope and then current user. So you can run that command. I'll leave that up for a little bit.
Assuming you have chocolatey or something.
Nope, this is the built-in PowerShell
One
package
Git
management.
or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me know once you run that command. Or
I
you're
got
ready
it.
to run that command. This may actually blow up on my machine because I already have it installed, but let's find out.
No.
Perfect. Right now in the middle of the presentation.
Right? I installed a font.
Which font did you add?
Hack.
Yeah.
Hash is a pretty good font, but you should use Code.
Why?
Code is fiber code that has ligatures. It's like your hash rockets turn into, there's like a seamless new thing. It's amazing. I'll show you afterwards.
What, Fear Code?
Yeah, Code. It's in the same thing. Look up just look up font ligatures. I can't remember.
IRA.
Anyway, so did everybody get this installed good? Show of hands. Or if it blew up, let me know that too. Blew up, we can troubleshoot real quick. Again, this is kind of an interactive workshop, so it doesn't always have to be silent responses to me.
It actually worked,
It worked? Good.
which is unusual for my
Okay.
company.
So if it did work, then you can do import module posh-git, and you'll get something magical will happen where you're at. It changed your prompt, I hope. depending on if it works.
That's what I was expecting to get.
Yes. So this is a feature of PoshGit, not of Git itself.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm whispering, but like the people who are on the thing should probably overhear us. Anyway, so did anybody not get this prompt? Did this not come up for them? Or have they been unable to install the module? Everybody's good? I really am going to start needing to ask for verbal confirmation from folks.
Yes.
I have no problem.
Everything is okie dokie.
Okie dokie, good.
I got a double prompt.
That's even better. 2 prompts are better than 1. Everybody knows that. So what you see
I
here
go
is
back to
it's
shell,
telling you
it's just
a
fine.
little bit of information. So the first piece of information here is that you're on a branch called master. And the second bit of information, this little equal sign with 3 lines instead of 2, tells you that you're equal with master. You're up to date. But we're going to run a command real quick. Git remote space -b. So you should see that you have a remote called origin, and that it has 2 URLs associated with it, 1 fetch and 1 push, both of which should be your username in the middle instead of mine.
Why would that ever be different? Like the fetch and push?
It depends on, you could, if you're doing like a weird server setup, you could fetch from one place and push to another. Don't. Like, I mean, it'll let you. Don't. Please. Like, that's a terrible idea. Yeah. It's configurable. Congratulations. So what we're going to want to do here is we're actually going to want to add the upstream remote. So this is going to be the same command for everybody. That's going to be, well, if I didn't hit the Windows key, it would
So
be.
if you didn't have PoshGit, those commands still would have worked?
Yes. And in
Okay.
fact, I'll remove PoshGit real quick.
So,
Control
the
L, man.
reason you need to add an upstream.
Yes.
Why?
So you need to add an upstream because you're eventually going to want to sync your stuff with the upstream.
What is the upstream?
Upstream is that canonical we talked about how you're making your own fork. So the origin points at your fork, right? It's a reference to your fork. Upstream is the canonical version of the project that is going to be deploying to production or is going to be releasing things. So if you're working on an open source project, if you're working on one of the PowerShell modules that their team maintains, you would the canonical version would be PowerShell / some module, right? And your version would be your username / some module. So you'll want to make changes only ever to your fork, but you'll also want to be able to pull changes down from the upstream. That's just what they call it in Git parlance. Origin is yours, upstream is the canonical version. Think of it as the one that must never be broken.
So, in this case,
Yeah.
in our example, just to clarify, your origin is our working copy, the ones we forked into our own repositories in Git.
Yep.
And the upstream is going to be your original
Right.
source that we all forked from.
Correct.
Do we
Because
only
I did.
have an upstream because we forked?
Yes. Correct.
So if you
And that's why
don't,
you want
So
to
if
do.
you clone something from a, you won't have an upstream.
Right. You. So maybe.
Okay.
Largely, no. If you just clone your own project, you won't have an upstream.
Okay.
You're just working on your own project.
Or
This
if we
is-
went and cloned his original
Right.
stuff directly, we had the rights to do that, then we would just clone his project and be done. We wouldn't have to fork it to our own. But
Okay.
because we don't have rights to that project to directly contribute or directly edit their code, his code, I have to bring it into mind to make some changes and then say, hey, Mike, later on, I think these changes might be good, and that's when I submit it back.
I didn't know you could do that. I thought you had to have access
No, it's
before
a
you could
safety.
submit anything.
It's a safety procedure. It allows you to make changes, and then when you're ready for those changes to be merged, or I'm ready for you to merge those changes, when I'm ready for those to be in the production code, we can have a conversation about it, but it's not like you have to develop on top of it.
Okay.
So it allows us to distribute, right, because it's a distributed version control, allows us to distribute the development of a project across many people simultaneously without ending up in painful conflicts as you go. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what happens if there is a conflict.
Yeah.
We'll generate one.
They're painful.
Yeah, we'll generate a conflict and then we'll resolve it. It won't be that big of a deal.
So can you see the upstream from the command line?
So you can't see it yet because we have to add it. So we're going to do git remote add upstream, and then you're going to want the URL from the original, which is at the Michael T. Lombardi getting GitHub. It'll actually be the exact same URL, The only difference is instead of Barbarian KB or whatever your username is, it'll be Michael T. Lombardi here.
Wait, I thought it was.
No, Barbarian KB is my dummy account fork.
Oops.
Did you mess that up?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get for trying to rush ahead. If
No,
you had waited.
Michael,
If you wanted to remove the upstream, you just add with remove.
Yeah,
or delete.
you get removed. I'll show you that. I'll show you that too.
Oh, because there's no dots.
Okay. So now I've added it, and now if I look at my Git remotes again, you'll now see I have an origin and I have an upstream, and the upstream points at Michael T. Lombardi. Does this make sense so far?
Oh, jeez.
All right. So what I could do if I wanted to remove it, that could be Git remote. Is it? It might be delete. I think it's delete. No, it is remove.
Isn't it just the URL?
And then if I do Git remote V again, you see that it's gone all of a sudden. So I'll re-edit for myself. Okay, so we have our two. We have our copy, our fork, our working copy, and then we have the upstream, which is the canonical version of the project that we want to protect at all costs. Okay, so that's cool. What does that buy us? Well, it turns out right now, not a whole lot. We gotta make some changes. Let's come back down here and we'll take a look here. So the first thing we're gonna do, even though nothing here is actually gonna happen, we're gonna make sure our local clone is gonna be up to date with the upstream project. So the way we do that is we're gonna run a couple of commands in a row. First command we're gonna run, git fetch space -- all. Let me know once you've got back data. You should see essentially the exact same thing as I've got right here. Let me know when you got that back.
Yeah.
Got it.
Good. Sweet.
Did you just create that?
No. What git fetch does, what the fetch command does, is it says, hey, server, tell me all the stuff that you know about this repository. Tell me all the things that have happened. And then it'll tell you. Because we didn't have that remote added before, it didn't have any way of knowing about any of these things.
But then we fork it?
But you forked. So remember that the repos don't have any knowledge of each other unless you explicitly tell them.
Okay.
Right? So your fork doesn't inherently know anything about upstream. You could just maintain your fork and go off on your own wild tangents and never sync again.
So you made a change since we forked it?
I have not.
Okay. I'm just confused why there's stuff there now when...
Yeah, because you didn't have... You made your copy, right?
Okay.
Yet your copy doesn't include all of the metadata for stuff that's on there, right? Because your copy just says, okay, I've got all the same stuff, but it tracks it as part of itself now.
Okay.
So what this does is it says, hey, what's on that upstream? And then you'll notice, like, all of these branches
say upstream
at the beginning.
All right.
Yep.
Sorry.
So, no, those are good questions. Does that make sense to everybody, or did I just make things a lot more confusing?
I'm still not quite following. So what?
Okay.
Why is part of it showing up here, but not like all of the things? I guess I'm not saying.
So
It's only showing you the changes.
So what you're seeing right here are the 3 branches that exist on the upstream project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
there's
now
the
I've got
add
it.
cleaning instructions branch, which is probably stale. There's a branch called Journal Master Lombardi 2018-08-15, and then there's the master branch. But if you see to the right of the arrow, it prepends this upstream identifier. Because another command we can run is git branch space -v -r, I think. Of course, that's highly unreadable. That's not much better.
Remember this whole command line thing? That
Yeah,
we
he had a
Oh.
good solution.
What was that? What was that answer? Somebody here knows it, and it's not me.
Yeah, it was spend 10
Make
minutes
it-
to try and get a
make it
different
magenta?
editor, and it wasn't even that much better.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
highlighter.
Whatever. No, you use yellow, but yellow is terrible. You should use magenta or green or something. Anyway, the important thing is this. For those of you who don't believe me, it's fine. I trust you.
I just changed my.
This one says origin head, and then you'll notice origin add cleaning instructions, origin journal master, origin master, and then you've got upstream. So those are our copies. So the reason that you were saying, like, why is it showing these now, is because when you made a fork, You made a full, complete copy, and then at that point, they don't care about each other anymore unless you make them.
Which we
Right.
did.
Right. So we're gonna make ours care because we're gonna keep contributing back to Upstream. Fork historically could also mean like, I like your project, I like what you're doing, I disagree with the way you're taking your project. I'm gonna take your project because you made it open source. Thank you. I'm gonna take your project and I'm gonna go do some other stuff with it. I think that we should rewrite the whole thing in Go. Go is a cool language. I think we're gonna rewrite the whole thing in Go. Now, you might be asking, but isn't it already written in JavaScript and it's a front-end thing and that doesn't make any sense? And you'd be right. I'm kind of dumb, but I'll do it because I said I will. And now I'm back into a corner and my project's going to fail. You can do those things, so a fork doesn't actually care. And so you'll see this sometimes
That's
with...
what fork was.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could contribute back.
Yeah, you can contribute back. So forking is just the idea that I just want to make my own copy.
So it's not a one-way thing.
So it's a one-way, one-time thing.
Okay.
And then after that, it's only whatever you tell it to care about. Does that make sense, or is that also confusing? And again, if it's confusing, that's okay. Git is confusing. I want to be clear about this. Git was designed by somebody who hates you. Right? Like the user experience of Git was like they wanted to make you break fingers while you're using it. Like it's pretty clearly designed to be painful to use.
What's the difference between a fork and a branch?
Very, very different. So a fork is a full copy of the whole repository. A branch is a temporary way of tracking changes. You can make your branches live forever, but that usually ends in horror. Like I strongly advise you to use short-lived branches, which is what we're going to cover today. So now that we're local, if I do git status, I'll import PoshGit again so you can see stuff. So if I do git status, Control L, what is that?
Clear.
Oh, I forgot about that. We talked about that last time, too.
I keep talking about it.
It's fine. Listen, we've been over this. I'm kind of dumb. So we can see that we're on branch master, and our branch is up to date with origin master. Well, that's neat, but what if we needed to be up to date with upstream? What if there were changes? So the way that we bring the changes, we're going to always do this on master branch. The way that you're going to bring the changes from upstream after you've done fetch, which we've already done, is you're going to do git rebase upstream master. Okay, and so you're going to run that command, and nothing's going to happen this time. It's going to be like, hey, it's all up to date. There's nothing to do, right? Because we haven't actually made any changes. That's cool. And then, again, we're going to establish habits here. We're going to do git push space -u origin master. So this says I want to push to master and make it track my branch or I want to I want to push to the origin remote my branch master and make it track, right? So in this case, we're going to hit it, and again, it's going to do nothing because there's no changes. This is just purely habit building. This is how you're going to keep your fork, your local copy, in sync. And we'll see what this actually looks like after something else changes, right? Once we've made changes, this will make more sense.
So that's pushing your local changes to GitHub.
Yes. So this pushes whatever's on your current master, it pushes your master to your fork on GitHub. You took the changes that were on the canonical, on the upstream, you pulled those and put those in locally, and then you took those changes and you pushed them up to your master on your fork. So that way, if you were to clone it on another machine, it would be up to date and you wouldn't have to sync it over and over and over again. There's varying opinions on this. This, I find, is just something to get you into the groove here. So we're going to come back. So, okay, we did that. Next up, we're going to create a feature branch to track our changes. You asked what the difference is between a branch and a fork. Branches don't have their own whole place on GitHub to go to. They don't have their own separate namespace. So we're going to do git checkout b, and then for today we're going to, like this very first one, we're going to do your username. So in this case, here I'm Barbarian KB, which is a dumb username, I know. And we're just going to do first journal. Okay, so your username -first -journal. It's going to say you switch to a new branch, and if you've got PoshGit, it'll tell you that you're on that. Notice this symbol went missing. You don't have this equivalent symbol here because this branch does not exist on your remote yet. You haven't told it that it exists. It doesn't care. It's not paying any attention. It's not that much magic, right? You've got to tell it that this thing exists. But before we do anything to tell it exists, we're going to go ahead and create a new file. So if you open up this folder in an editor that you're inside of, in my case, I can do code and then a period, and that'll just open it up. For those of you that have VS Code, it's the same thing.
Notepad.
You can do Notepad, but I'll hate you forever. And then you can make a folder. In my case, I'm going to make Barbarian KB inside of entries. And then I'm just going to make a new file called bio.md. Okay, you put whatever you want in the bio. It doesn't actually matter. It's just a text file. You could, in fact, put nothing, but that's kind of boring. I'd like to encourage you to write something, no matter what that something is. It could be literally the word something. I don't care. So you want to put something in that bio. And then once you've done that, we'll go back to our terminal. Let me know once you've saved the file. Give me a thumbs up or an affirmative or some sort of acknowledgement here. Thank you, Alana. So we'll come back. So once you've made that file change, everybody at the table good?
Good.
Is anybody on the stream paying any attention? I can't see it. No one's watching this anymore. No one knows. Okay, whatever. It's fine. They're not saying
tuned in to
anything.
watch the
I was just
3
assuming.
minutes behind. They haven't gotten there yet.
It's a good point. Well, sorry, live stream people. You're just going to be perpetually unable to catch up to me. I apologize. That's probably a really terrible experience. But you're not going to find out about this for another 3 minutes, so it'll be fine.
It's totally okay.
It's fine.
When I get lost, your GitHub instructions are perfect.
We're able to see the changes.
Yeah, so what you're going to do is what we're going to run is the next thing we're going to do, git status. Actually, if you just hit enter, you'll see something kind of interesting, which is that it now shows you a bit of red text where it's got this +1 here, this little -0, and this -0, right?
If you have Posh.
Yeah, if you have posh git up. So what this does is this number here tracks the number of added files, the number of changed files, and then the number of deleted files. We didn't delete anything, and please don't, right? For today, we're just adding stuff. So that's pretty cool. We can run a command called git status. We run git... Go ahead.
It doesn't treat folders as a folder or anything?
Nope. If you just add a folder and you don't have a file inside of it, Git doesn't track that.
Okay.
Git only cares about the state of files. It doesn't care.
Okay.
So we look here. We'll see now in mine. This is for me. It shows that there's a new folder added, and it doesn't care too much about how many items are inside of it yet. So if I do Git Diff, it would help if I did Git add first. So you can do Git add, and you can specify a specific file. So in this case, I do Git status. Now that I've added it,
Why are slashes going the other way?
why am I?
Never mind. You're on Linux.
I am not on Linux. I'm on Windows, but that's fine. Git was written for people who are on Linux first, but also // work on Windows. FYI.
Really?
And if you just do
Since
a
when?
/ like the root will just go to the root of your
Yeah, I
main
knew
drive.
that.
So yeah, you can use / that way too. Everything works fine. So now we have if I run git status again, you'll see there's a new file and it's got entries barbarian KB bio, right? That's pretty neat, I guess. So what if I run git diff should work this time? Git diff does not. Oh, because there's no changes.
No change to the file,
Dumb.
yeah.
Ignore me. That'll be when we edit the file. Okay. So we've added stuff. So why did it go from red to green? So the answer here is that until we added that file specifically, Git just could not care less about that file as far as tracking changes go. It's like, hey, you did some stuff. I don't know if you meant it. I'm not gonna do anything with this until you show me you mean it, and you show it by doing a specific add. So in this case, if we come back over to here, we can show that it'll pay attention to some stuff. So we do, or am I, right, my bio. We'll see now that there's these little green things, right, where it's identified like, hey, I think it added some stuff. That's just some VS Code stuff. We're going to stay away from VS Code for most of this. So now if I do here, we see I've got one added, but also from its perspective, one file's been changed. So if I do git status, it'll tell me the changes that are to be committed. So right now, if I committed my changes, what it would do is it would take what I added earlier for Barbarian KB, and it would make that stuff be logged in. Changes not committed is that same file because I changed it after I staged it. So if I do a git diff here, yeah, there it is.
How'd you stage it? Sorry, I missed it.
I staged it by doing git add to the
Okay,
file before
I
I
did
made
that.
a change. And now that I've made a change, it sees that there's differences. So it shows here, you can't really see again because of the dark red, but it has this minus and then sorry, and then there was no new line at the end of the file. And then what I did was I added 3 new lines for sorry or am I. And again, it doesn't end with a new line, which is a problem, but we'll get to that later. It's not a big deal. So if I do...
Why does it show that sorry is a change?
Because if you look at the next part, right here, there is no new line at end of file.
Oh,
So
not
technically,
since I added
sorry
it.
without
Okay.
without a new line at the end of the file was the last line. And so when I added sorry and I put a carriage return after it, I technically changed that line. Does that make sense?
And had you already had a new line after
That's
that,
it.
then
Thank
sorry
you.
wouldn't have been on there.
Yeah, and we can prove that out real quick. So if I do git add, and if you do a period, it'll just add everything in the folder. You don't always want to do that, but you know, because in case you have some files you didn't mean to stage, that can be problematic. We're not going to go too deeply into some of this stuff. But so now this is all we're going to add is just that. And if I do git diff again, we'll see sorry or am I no new line at enter file becomes replaced with or am I. And it doesn't have the no new line at enter file. So we'll add this, and then I'll add some new stuff after. Now when I do git diff, you see that instead of saying that it removed the or am I, it just added 2 new things, right?
Did you commit? Or,
I have not committed yet. We are still pre-commit. So if I do git status and I do git add, okay.
You're just doing the diff on the ads.
Yep. So now we're going to look at git status one more time. So we've got entries barbarian kb bio.md. Great. Hopefully that's your username in the middle and not mine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and it's time to do a commit message. So we're going to do git commit space -m single quote, and you can put whatever message you want in here. There's some really good guidelines around how to write a good commit message that I'll walk you guys through afterwards. But out of habit, if it's not related to an issue, I call it mate, and then I would say this.
Doesn't it contain, or is it just the first line?
The first line cannot be longer than 50 characters. The following lines should not be longer than 80. The reason for that is that it'll truncate in GitHub's UI.
You just happen to know where 80 characters is for the most part.
I just kind of feel it out.
Okay.
I do, again, this is my day.
I know, that's what I was saying. You got
Um,
into the habit of
But
knowing.
so this is a habit that we have, a good practice in general, is you want a short imperative statement that says what you did. If you're using, like if you have Jira tickets, you might want to put the Jira ticket number in here. Or if you have ServiceNow, you want to put the ServiceNow ticket in here. What you want to do is make it visually obvious where the work came from or what it relates to. You don't have to do that. That's just something that I picked up from Puppet and now can't unsee wherever I go. So you'll notice a lot of my GitHub specific stuff will have GH dash and then a number after it. That's pointing at the GitHub issue that the code is there to fix.
Multi-line in this, just for
Yep.
other people's knowledge. How do you get a new line without hitting enter?
I did hit enter. So I did the open single quote.
And
If
it
you
will.
have PS read line, which you have 5.1 or above, you have it. It'll keep going until it closes out the quote. So you'll notice that I was able to, if I delete this,
Gotcha. Oh my god.
right? But as soon as I close out that single quote and I hit enter, it's done. You won't get this message. This is because I signed my commits, which is beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. But
they may get this for the first time, so she does.
Especially
with HTTP.
Yeah, sign your commits. Yep. So I forgot all about Git Config. So what you probably need to do is it's going to yell at you. For those of you who already hit enter, did it yell at you about your Git Config? Because it may have. If you haven't used Git at all on your machine, when you do the commit, it may yell at you about your Git Config.
Mine worked.
So if it does that, you do git config
Global
user.name, and in my case, if I was going to set it, I would just do like this for my name. So it's git config -- global space user.name, and then the other one would be git config global user.email, I think. Yep. And so you'll just want to make sure that this email, when you set it, matches up with whatever they put you on for your GitHub account. So same thing, you just do git config -- global user.email space, and then in quotes whatever your email is. And then you should be able to run the git commit command again. Does that happen to anybody at the table, or am I just making stuff up? Didn't happen to you?
It was already set up.
Oh well, that'll do it. So for those of you who aren't able to type along, does this make sense so far? Following okay?
How are we doing on the stream?
It's a good question.
Do you have any questions? No questions.
Go back to you signing it.
Mhm.
So I haven't seen that before.
We'll talk about that a little bit afterwards if you want. We can pair off and discuss that if we end up having time. But
Okay.
the short version is I have a GPG key that I use to sign my commits. And the reason that I do that is that we want to be able to verify that the work that I put out there actually belongs to me. Because what you don't want is for somebody to make a commit as me and then get it into the Puppet database or into the Puppet code base.
Have to be bad.
Yeah. You don't want, so it essentially just proves the identity of the person who did the work.
Do you have to log in or use an SSH key still?
No, you can. I do GPG signing over HTTPS.
Okay.
Yep.
So you use that, and that identifies you instead of using an SSH.
Well, I mean, even the SSH key pair might not identify me, right?
Right.
It doesn't guarantee my identity.
Right, because somebody could have swiped that key from your box.
Right.
Okay.
GPG is just that additional level of user if it is actually you. Gotcha.
And it gives you, like, if we look, I'll show you real quick. If we look at the commit history, it gives you this nice little verified thing. It tells you
You have
the
to
GPG.
upload that then? In your...
Yeah, you have to set up the GPG stuff, which is why it's a little bit out of
Okay.
scope for this. So, is everybody good to this point? Does this work for everybody?
Yep.
Alana, is it working for you or?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
a little behind.
No, it's okay. We can hang up and answer any other questions. Were you able to do the commit, or where'd you get to?
I did commit, but it's like all jacked up and up.
It's yelling at you about the config, probably. Okay.
But I mean, everything's working. I'm just going slower.
Yeah, no worries. And again, like there's plenty of time here, so there's no
And it's
rush.
recorded.
And it's recorded.
Do
That's
you want to
right.
ask and see if anybody on the stream has any questions, or did you already
You
do
already
that?
did.
And what'd they say?
No.
They gotta wait 3 minutes.
Well, no, you don't have to ask verbally. You got to type because they'll see the type.
Yes, we'll see you typing to me. But now I'm hearing this, and it's kind of one of those
Well, then,
space
not
false
now.
moments. But when is now? Now is then.
Right. Today's pitching, tomorrow's catching.
Sure.
Who's on first?
Yes. I was thinking Spaceballs.
I don't know. They're base. Do you not
Who?
know the skit?
Yes.
Okay.
Who?
I got very
Just
concerned.
dated half the people in here.
I know.
We were doing things. Okay, so we committed.
trying to pull the Spaceballs reference.
We committed stuff, right? So that's cool. So now if I do git status, it's like, hey, I'm on branch barbarian kb -first -journal. Nothing to commit. Working tree clean. That's cool. But what if follow me with this. I did git log -- one line. What would that show me? That'd show me some stuff. Show me some stuff. So here,
What? Oh,
here it shows me the change I just made. And we'll notice that it says head, and it has my branch name. But upstream master doesn't match that. Neither does origin master or origin head or master. That's because the changes we made don't affect anything but our branch. So you could happily go chugging along making 37 different changes on this branch, and nothing else will ever care, unless you do what we're going to do next, which is a merge request or a push.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you exit that by hitting Q, for those of you who aren't Vim familiar. By default, it'll use Vim key bindings. Sorry. So, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take those changes we just made, and we're going to do git push -u origin. And if you've got posh git, you could type like the first 3 letters and then hit tab and it'll autocomplete, which is just the best. Especially if you're like me and you end up using large names.
So when we did that initial commit,
Yep.
you did that was a header. That
Mhm.
was, and then you did 2 spaces. Are the 2 spaces?
You want to have
required?
a full blank line
You do?
before you do a body.
Okay. Otherwise, it doesn't treat it as a body.
Yeah, it's largely convention, and this is what your tools will expect. You don't actually need to put a body in there for it to work.
Okay.
I just super strongly advise you to put a body in there because it hurts you not at all to take an extra 30 seconds to explain why you did what you did. The format that I use personally is prior to this commit, X was true. X was a problem for Y reasons. You know, this commit then does Z, right? So you want to lay out like the logical progression, because what I want, the value in doing that in a commit is that at any point in time, I can be like, why did they make all these weird changes? I don't understand this. And then I can read the commit message and be like, hey, before this commit, the IIS settings were not idempotent. So every time you ran it, it would restart IIS. That's a problem for obvious reasons because it runs every 30 minutes, and that's not good. So by adding that kind of detail into your commit messages, you make it much easier for somebody to catch up on what happened. Some of this should also make it into the changelog, but commit messages are for the developers and maintainers first. That's who your audience is for a commit message. If you're ever expecting that a customer or a user is going to read your commit messages to figure out how to do stuff, you are very wrong. You are incredibly incorrect, because they never, ever will, no matter how wonderful your commit messages are. Unless they're like open source fanatics, in which case they probably read through your stuff and then critique it to themselves, which is problematic. Also a good reason for you to follow formatting guidelines and stuff in your commit messages and write good commit messages on the off chance that they're looking. So,
That's not from personal experience, right?
not at all.
No?
No, for sure not.
No?
It's fine. So then you do git push -u origin.
So, why?
So what this is going to do is it's going to take your branch and it's going to push it up to your origin remote. And it's going to say, hey, here's this thing. I want you to keep it, but also I want you to make this the thing that I track from. So, what do you...
Why can't I just say git push?
Because it doesn't know anything. Like, I mean, I'll show you. I'll show you.
Would it
No,
go
it
to
doesn't.
master?
It doesn't. Because if I just do git push, it's like, well, where do you want to push it to? It doesn't have an upstream branch. It doesn't know anything. Mm-mm. You set the upstream remote, but there's no branch on the remotes that knows about this thing yet. Which is why we do git push -u origin. So we say, I want to take this branch and I want to make a copy of it go to origin. And then you give it the name of the branch that you want to copy over.
So that's pushing it up to your.
Sure about that?
Why did you make commits on the master?
On the mine?
Yeah. Why didn't you make a feature branch?
Because I didn't want to.
Ken? Ken.
So that's why.
Don't you know?
Now you have to do git reset hard. And you just broke it because you just did it to actual master. You just pushed to actual master. So now you have to okay, now we have to do triage. So this will be fun. I'm not gonna do it on mine because mine's not broken. But here's what we're gonna do, Ken. You're gonna run this command. Nobody else do this because it'll blow up your stuff.
You want to change to his laptop display?
Yeah, we could do that. Do you have a HDMI or a way to? I don't
Yeah,
think
I have HDMI.
You have an HDMI? That's magic. Sweet.
And this is magic because the stream should just automatically pick this up. I think.
Yeah, because it doesn't know what
It doesn't
source.
care. Yeah. Kind of like forks.
Next to Windows.
Hold on, I have to do this thing because nobody's going to see this screen. Oh, Lord. How about that? Does that work?
This is what happens when we do it live, folks.
Wait.
Don't look at the stream. You're gonna get the.
Yeah. Well, I want to see the stream to make sure that he pulled the cord. And then...
It's gonna go dark.
I would assume
You're still being recorded even though we don't have a
Oh,
screen,
it flipped
just so
over.
you know.
Okay, we're good.
It's good. No, that's fine. I'll just keep.
Yes,
Being
you're going to have
distracted.
to be the animated person while we do this. So, okay, what should I type?
So you're gonna do git log space -- one line. Great. So see that you're 2 ahead now because you did things from the upstream master. Yep. See how upstream master is 2 behind, and now you've updated both your master and origin master because you just pushed. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna do git space reset space head all caps, and then ~2, no space.
At head.
To go back 2 lines.
Yep.
Okay.
And then space -- hard. And enter.
It's going back in
Now,
the Git
if you
history.
do git log one line, git log one line, now you'll see you're back up to date with your upstream master. But you're not up to date with your origin master because it's like, hey, where you at? And notice that it says in your little thing that you're 2 commits behind. So now you're going to do a terrible, terrible, awful thing that you'll never, ever do again. Never, ever, ever, ever do this again. So, okay, so in the prompt, you see how it has a little down arrow?
Yeah.
And it says 2? That's
Yeah.
because you're 2 behind your master.
Yes.
So you're not going to do what you're about to do ever again after this, please. What you're going to do is you're going to do git push space -u origin master space -- force. And you're never going to force push to master again, Ken. Never, ever. Because you're never going to commit straight to master ever again, Ken. Okay?
Now what?
You fixed it. You did it. I'm very proud of you. Now git checkout -b and then Ken Maglio
Needs to follow directions.
Okay, now you're on your own branch. Now you can make changes, and then you can push.
So make a change to your file.
Your file doesn't exist anymore. I ate it. That's what that
A
whole
hard
previous thing
reset?
is about.
Yeah.
So a hard reset says, hey, I know that there were some things that were done, some changes that were made. Kill them. Just get rid of it. It never happened. Take me back to the way my repo was several sessions ago. Don't hate us, Ken. This is going to go on the internet.
Probably can't
In
ask
3
for
minutes.
help comfortable.
In 3 minutes, it'll be there.
No, because it's directly committed to master.
Yeah, please don't do that. So here's the reason that would be bad in a production setting. If you just commit directly to master, especially if you're not working off of your own fork, if you just push those changes straight to master on that canonical version, now somebody else has to go do damage control because the changes you push might, if you have CI/CD in place, if you're doing continuous integration deployment, you might have accidentally triggered a deployment that will actually break production. Right? This is especially true in cases if your configuration is set up that way, or if you're building an application and you push that code to master and it actually doesn't work, you can break builds. You do all kinds of stuff that'll be really painful. So you never, ever, ever want to commit to master. You're always going to want to work off of a branch.
But if it's a local copy and you're the
No,
only person ever.
never, ever. Never, ever. Never, ever. Not ever, never, ever. I have very strong opinions about this. Come to my TED Talk.
It's online.
It's right now. We're in my TED Talk. Sorry.
Back to Mike.
Does that make sense? Everybody kind of see why that could be painful and bad?
Yes.
So we push to yours.
No, you push to your fork. When you do that, when you do git push to origin. So
Okay.
if I do.
So now if I do git push, this will not work.
Yes.
So it
Right
shows
now,
it.
if you just do git push, it should blow up. Yeah. So right when I do git push, it's like, hey, you need to set to the upstream. -u is just a alias for this command, so you don't have to remember to type --set -upstream. So you do git push.
And it
Dash
literally
origin.
tells you what to send it to.
Okay. Right.
The
-origin, and then you want to do whatever your branch name is that you're pushing. Remember,
Damn
it's always the remote and then the branch. So git push -u, remote, branch. So now when I do it, wabba wabba wabba. Hey, push some things. Oh, rejected. Permission denied. Oh, because I'm with the wrong account. Hold on. This is my own fault. So you'll get to see me do something a little abnormal. Git config global user.email. Okay.
Everything is up to date.
Actually, this will be easier. I'll do this instead. Cheat, because I'm a cheater, and cheating is easier than me changing all my settings and having to change them back afterwards. So I'm just gonna come down. Where's my emails? Emails? Add email address. I'll just add my other email address. Oh, it's already in use. I don't want to hear that. Do what I told you.
Can you hit the drop down?
No, it doesn't. It's gonna, because it's one of my. I'm gonna have to. This is unfortunate. I'll have to change it. So now we'll do.
You're gonna break yourself working.
It's fine. It's whatever. I just work for a living. Who cares?
You'll just work more.
Git config. Config global user.email michael.t.lombardi plus oops at gmail.com. Now you'll never guess my real email. Ha ha ha. I'm too clever for you. So I'll do that. And then I'll do git commit dash amend. No edit. It's dash no edit. Type
ASSWORD.
How did you guess it? Listen, Ken, get out of my head. Now when I go to push it, waka waka. Yeah? Oh, what do you mean you still don't love me? Love me!
Rejected.
Rejected. Well, this might not work out so well. It's Mersan.
Mine worked.
Demo time.
Demo gods aren't happy, Mike.
Yeah, it's fine. You don't actually need to see mine go. You just need to run the command yourselves. You're adults. You can figure this out. And then, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Once you've done the push, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go back to that Upstream project, and then you should get a little mark somewhere over here, I think, that'd be like, do you want to create a pull request? And the answer is yeah, you do. You want to make a pull request. It's not really a question. It's more of a please make a pull request. You get it? Yeah, Ken gets it.
So what's a new pull request?
So click the button, and we'll have Ken drive for this portion.
Hey.
This is what happens when you do things live and you didn't prep a VM to do your stuff inside of beforehand. It's fine. This is what I get. It's my fault. So yeah, zoom us in one more. That's good.
Oh, okay.
So you'll do the compare and pull request thing.
Do you have to do this from the website?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's PowerShell commands to do it, but
Okay, but
you're going to be
not
going in
be
here.
doing
Now.
it from Git.
No. Git again doesn't know anything about pull requests. Pull requests aren't a Git thing; they're a server thing.
Don't do merge conflicts in the GUI.
Right. We're adults. We're not going to do that. Sorry. I know. I've done it before. It's a terrible mistake. So go ahead and click compare and pull request, all of you. This is fine. This can't possibly go sideways on us. And so then you'll see that it has base fork, base, head fork, and compare.
Oh, okay.
So the base fork is the upstream. It's the thing you're trying to merge to. The base that it's pointing at here is what branch you want to merge your changes on top of, right? And then the head fork is going to be yours, and then the compare is going to be the branch that you've been working on. So what this basically says is I want to take all the changes in my branch, I want to play those on top of Upstream master, right? So the great part is you all added your own separate files and your own separate folders. There will be no conflicts if nobody did a terrible thing. There will be no conflicts, so you should all just be able to do this. What I'm going to do is after you submit your request, I'm going to go ahead and start approving and merging those, and we'll switch back to me, and I can show you what that workflow looks like. No, bad, Ken, bad. If I had, yeah, you don't need to put anything in there. You can. So we'll switch back to me now because that part was shown. You have a question?
So why is it going to yours and not our master?
Because. Did you need it back?
No.
Okay.
I just need to make sure if you can plug it in.
Yeah. So the reason is you want to get your changes into the Upstream project, right? You want to get it to where the
I
canonical
know what we're
place
trying
is.
to do, but what did we type to make it go to yours?
You
instead
didn't
of
type
ours?
anything. You went back to the Upstream project, and when you
Okay.
went to the Upstream project, it was like, hey, I know you have a fork, and you push changes to a branch on your fork, because GitHub can see that. Did you want to get those into this project?
Okay.
Because that's a very common workflow. It's called the it's called the fork and branch workflow.
So we see that because we added a remote.
No, you see that because GitHub saw that you have a new branch on your fork, and when you're on your fork, like if I switch real quick to my copy, you'll see it says forked from
Yeah, I did that.
Michael T. Lombardi getting GitHub. So you should see that on yours as well. You should see like this little line here. So anytime you push to your project, it knows that its upstream parent is that project.
So should you normally be
You'll almost always be looking at the upstream and not your fork on GitHub.
right?
Okay.
But do you normally do a pull request from your branch back and not
Yes.
merge it first and then?
Yes. Always, always, always. You wanna what you want to do
So
is
the masters should stay in sync.
you don't because you're always what you're gonna do is you're gonna make work on your own branch on your own fork, and you're gonna want to merge that back to the upstream master.
And then
Right. And then because if they don't accept it, then all you've done is make sure that your master's out of sync. If you merge it to your own master first.
right.
So you want to merge it to theirs, and once they're happy with the changes and they pull it into the project and it makes it, at that point you can then sync your copy to the upstream,
Okay.
which is what we're about to do right after this. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here to pull requests, and I have a whole bunch of them now. So I'm going to come in here.
Your app failed.
Yeah, it's fine. It's angry with me. I did terrible things to it.
So with all of these changes you're pulling into your project, if we were to go back and run through this later, that's not gonna.
Green light must.
Nope.
I figured it's easy to see.
So I'm going to come through and just approve.
In more ways than one, let me tell you.
I'm sad that there's not a Giphy thing here, and I'm not going to take time to. Looks good to me, or let's get this merged. It could be either. So once I've done. Say again?
I thought colon does all the stuff.
I could check. So once I've done an approve, I'll do a merge. So I'll confirm the merge. And then I'll go back to the other pull requests, get to the rest of these real quick. So one of the things that I'll show you right here is I can go in here, and you can add line comments. Right? So if I could add a single comment here, or I could start a review here. And then I could start a review. And if you click to start a review, it'll keep it as pending until you finish your review. So here I'll just click finish my review. And I'm going to, in Ken's case, I'm going to approve. I'm going to approve. So now you can see that there are these comments associated with particular lines. So these will change over time. Like, so if Ken had pushed up another set of changes before we did the merge, it would invalidate these ones if he changed these lines. So what you can do is you can see over time. So like if you submit code and I'm looking through it and I'm like, hey, there's an error on this line, I comment there, you fix it, it'll collapse that comment because it's no longer relevant, but the comment still stays on the PR. So you can still see all the metadata of us working together on the review, which is why GitHub PRs and GitLab merge requests are so useful, because they're a tool that lets you see where the team worked together to solve a problem. So we got this one, and I'll go ahead and merge. pull requests. So we can also come and take a look at the commit message that was put in place. So here's the commit message. Who is this one? JD Best? Okay. Yep. And then we can come over here, and I can go ahead, again, I could comment on it or whatever. You can also view the files at that point in time. So here we see that it just shows you what the render looks like.
I like blame.
Isn't as fun as it sounds?
Yeah, Git blaming shows you who's responsible for writing that code over time. It's pretty frequent that we'll do that to each other.
So you successfully.
Yeah, so you could delete the branch, yeah.
Just something good to note. Here.
Yeah, so Ken was pointing out that once I've merged something, if you look at your own PR, you should have the option to delete your branch. I don't, because I don't have access to your fork, but you should be able to delete your branch.
Won't that get deleted once we resync?
Nope.
Oh,
You have
really?
to tell it, because otherwise it'll keep tracking it. How's it going, Alana? Any luck?
Yeah.
So if you're
Nothing
doing-
blew up yet?
No, it's all blowing
it's all
up,
blowing
but
up?
I'm learning as it blows.
Okay. Yeah, and we can also talk through some stuff. We're gonna take a break after we get through this first.
Oh,
And then you set a pattern too, as far as like once you've successfully, your pull request has been done, your feature branch is accepted into master.
Yep.
Then you would remove your feature branch at that point because it is no longer needed.
Yep. You don't want to keep stale branches living around for.
So would you
time.
resync your fork then?
That's exactly what we're gonna do before we make more changes. Yep. So we're gonna take a break and then we're gonna come back and do that part. Is it cannoli time? No, because the cannolis are for me and Ken and no one else. Quiet. Stop telling people about the cannolis. What are you doing? Thank you.
I don't know what it's
You gotta leave the gun tape.
Oh, you're on. I'm on, yeah.
Okay,
Lombardi.
No, I got no idea. Okay, so now if I go back and I look here, we'll see that there were two. You guys see, I didn't do a very good job of reviewing here. You put them in the wrong place. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. What is this? Put them at the top level instead of inside of entries. But whose fault is that?
Wait.
I'll give you a clue. It's the guy who signed off on it.
Scroll down. Forget that.
Ken, you didn't even Ken.
You committed it.
I mean, I did because I trusted you and I didn't even look.
So,
Yeah, no.
let's say there was a mistake and you want to go back. Can you?
Nope.
You can't.
I already merged it. So what we
Okay.
could do is you could do like git reverts, cherry picks or stuff like that.
Okay.
It's a nightmare. So the lesson that we're gonna learn here is what do we do before we merge a pull request? We actually give it a real review. We don't just rubber stamp it and go, it's fine, it's fine. What's the worst that can happen? Oh, I accidentally committed all of our secrets into Git. My bad. That happened to somebody recently. What team was that? There's somebody that they accidentally committed like their API credentials for a bunch of stuff into a repository on GitHub.
That's never happened before.
It happens all the time.
You can just delete it. It'll be fine. Just push a new one.
Except it's in history forever. So then you have to force push.
What's your take on checking in on a enterprise get encrypted passwords?
Don't. In my opinion, checking in, if it's encrypted and the key to decrypt it isn't in the thing, it's not that bad. It's still not good. It's not great. You want to be able to manage your secrets entirely separately, but you can't always. I know. Listen, I'm familiar with what YAML does, but but wherever possible, you want to keep your secrets somewhere else. Like a good place to put them is in like Vault. Or in the Azure key service or the Amazon version or any of those things.
What's Vault?
Yeah, what's fault?
Vault is a HashiCorp tool that has a whole bunch of different backends. So what you could do is you could specify a backend for like a SQL database. You give Vault credentials once to be able to access the SQL database, and then from that point on, you define roles and permissions that people are allowed to request from it. And so, like, let's say I hit it and I'm like, I need a DBA for this application credential. So it'll specifically give me just those credentials. You have to set it up ahead of time. It's not magic. It doesn't know what you want, which by plain English, it's not Terminator. But you specify, like, whatever the roles are that a DBA for this application needs. So then they get admin access for that database instance only and none of the others. And the way that Vault works is that it gives you a short time to lived credential. So you would get a credential to access that database with that role for 30 minutes. And then you'd have to re-up or get a new credential. But it'll expire it. And so what it does is it handles rotating credentials on the back end. That's why they have different back-end plugins. So they've got them for SQL database, I think for Postgres. They've got it for, one of the most useful ones that a lot of people use is for Amazon's IAM roles. Right, so you can specify, like, I need to be able to hit my Amazon subscription, but I should only be able to do it with read-only for these areas, right? No other permissions. And so you request it, and you have that for 15 or 30 or 90 minutes, whatever you set the duration to, and then at the end of it, it expires. You can also set it so it's like, hey, I need full admin, give me all the power credentials. And so then it'll give that to you for 15 minutes, but it also logs an event when that happens, and you can set it up to have triggers. So it's like, hey, it alerts the SOC. Somebody requests, I need super admin permissions for the Amazon subscription, tell the SOC that they did that. And then you get a nice phone call from your security team. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Why'd you need super admin? Oh, I needed to add a domain in Route 53. You didn't think maybe you'd get like the network admin credentials? You super admins, what you thought, like with access to billing and stuff, that was what you... Listen, here's the thing. You're off the list of people who can request super admin now. Sorry? So it lets you do that kind of stuff. It does the same sort of thing in Azure. I think it probably works in Google Compute. I haven't looked too closely. But Vault is just an abstraction for a bunch of backends and secret management.
Big high-end enterprise tool.
Actually, it's open source, and there is
what?
enterprise stuff to it. It's HashiCorp Vault.
Vaultproject.io.
Yep.
Is the open source or the community version.
Yep.
I just found it.
Yeah. It's a super cool thing. I've used it before. It's pretty neat, especially if you mix it up with Console, which does key pair stuff across machines. So you can set it up. There's a bunch of little plugins, but like one of the things you can do with Vault and I think Console together, I'm not sure if there's, I can't remember what the tool's name is. Anyway, Vault plus some other tool, you can have it rotate the credentials inside of your IIS web configs.
Okay.
So you put down some sort of string on disk, and then it sees it and it identifies it, and then it'll overwrite it as long as it's controlling that file. So every time that credential rotates, it rotates it in the file as well, so you don't lose access between the website and whatever it's connected to. So lots and lots of really neat stuff. Totally unrelated to Git though, so sorry.
But it's more for managing
That's secrets
programs.
management.
Yeah, it's stuff that requires passwords. It's
Yeah,
not
if you need to be
so much
able,
like AD accounts or.
yeah. Well, I mean, you could hook it up to AD. I think
Okay.
you could do that for that. Oh, so that'd be more akin to like what you would do with like Gia, where you want to use like a temporary virtual service account.
Okay.
You don't want to use like a long-lived account to do those types of things, and you want it to tell you who did it.
Just enough admin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So Gia's around endpoint and stuff. We've talked about giving a discussion on that, but I don't use it as much anymore. Is anybody still having any issues? Anybody I can help troubleshoot? We can pause the rest of the stream stuff while I help folks get through. And nobody's asking questions on the internet, so that's good. Lana, did it unbreak yet?
Oh, 'cause you're not going to cut that out.
Do you need help?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, cool. So, does anybody need to get up, use the restroom, that sort of thing? 'Cause we've still got probably another 30 to 40 minutes of lab content here. Maybe get up, stretch your legs.
Okay,
take a break.
Can you do something real simple for me?
Yeah.
I don't want to throw anything off.
Yeah.
Create a file. Like,
File?
yeah, just like make a new file. Like you did your journal entry.
Yeah. Here, I'll do it.
Because it won't do it anymore.
You don't do it in the.
So I'll save it as myself in my other copy. So I'll switch over.
Oh, so you just made it here. You didn't
Yeah.
use command.
Mm-mm.
Carry on.
We're trying to do like a
Carry
touch
on.
or-
No. Nope. Carry on. Carry on, folks. I'm good. Okay. Makes sense now.
So I'll come into where this is me, right? So I do it.
And
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's it.
So if we ever fork a project, it's always going to be wanting to commit to the original.
Yes, well, you'll always want to push back to origin.
Okay. And origins, yeah, are local though. It's not remote. When you did the
No,
remote
origin
dash
is the
v,
hub.
but when you did the git remote dash v, showed origin as us, and
Yes.
upstream is the other one.
Yes, correct.
So why was it trying to go to upstream by default?
It's saying that it doesn't see anything above it.
Okay.
Right. There's nothing. It's not tracking anything.
What with the branch?
Yeah. When you did git push,
Yeah,
and it failed.
when you did the
Yeah, so there's two things that you're kind of butting up against here. Upstream 1 means whatever's on the server, but upstream capital U means the canonical project.
Okay.
And you could name that whatever you wanted. If you wanted to name it canonical, or if you wanted to name it, please don't screw me up, whatever you want to call that version, you can. Just by default, what do you call it? Convention. Thank you for finding the word that I was absolutely failing to draw out of my mouth. By convention, upstream is the canonical project that you're going to be working on. Origin is your copy.
Okay.
Go back to your pull requests.
Did you launch another pull request, Ken? Pull requesto moves bio to correct location. So let's see, files changed. File renamed without changes. It moved from top level to entries maglioK.md. That's pretty good. That's pretty great. I come in here, it says moves bio to correct location. I'm sorry, Ken, but who's bio? I'm gonna.
Mine?
I don't. Do you know how to
So
do?
are people dicks when it comes to git managing?
Yeah. Do you know how to do here? Connect back up. Do you know how to do? I'm a dick. Not people aren't. I am. Do you know how to do a amended commit?
Nope.
We're gonna learn that right now.
I can't I just
So-
comment and say mine?
Nope. It's not good enough because it's not gonna be in the. It won't be in the commit. So
That doesn't get stored with it?
it does sort of. So open up in git status, right? And then you git log. No one line this time. Just hit enter. So now you'll see your most recent one was moves bio to correct location.
Yep.
So now do git commit or Q.
You gotta hit Q first.
Yep. Git commit space dash amend. Tab. Enter.
Enter?
Ooh. It's one M.
It is.
Okay. Now moves just before. Do you know how to use Vim? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Just before bio, just do maglioK bio. Yep. And then right and quit. And you're good to go. Now do git push dash force. Yep. So it's okay to do force pushing on your branch of your fork because it hasn't been merged yet. So now when I go up and I look at the commits and I refresh, it says moves maglioK bio to correct location. Dope.
You're right. Wait, what? Where does it
Yeah,
say
I don't
that?
see that either.
Commits.
Oh, it's up at the very top.
Moves maglioK bio to correct location. So now I'll come over.
And go.
So conversations don't get stored?
They do, but I'd have to know to go look there.
Okay.
I'd have to go spelunking back to the PR to find it. Wherever possible, you want to be as clear as you can be in the commit message itself.
Okay.
What is AppVeyor?
AppVeyor is a CI/CD tool. It's
Better
for-
Jenkins.
It's
What
for
was the thumbs up shortcut?
there's nothing worse than Jenkins, so it doesn't matter.
Everything else.
So this one's renamed. I'm actually reading them now. To bio.md. Okay, sweet. And I will approve.
So you have the quotations for maintain.
Yep.
What are the other ones that you use?
So another way that I might do it would be, like, if I had a GitHub issue, I would do GitHub. If I had a Jira issue, and if you didn't have them broken up, I'd do Jira.
The
But if
number
I
would
did-
be the commit, or what's the number mean?
Take it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it'd be like,
And that GitHub could be the issue number.
Yep.
If you had service now, just be an anchor and SRQ or a bug or a defect.
so that's what you would kind of see. So if you want an actual example of that, while we're kind of on break real quick, if I were to go to Puppet Labs, and then if we do Puppet Labs DSC Lite, and then we come back and you look at the commits that we have for this project, you'll see, like, we have a make commit for improving code example. This one says module 756. We use Jira, so this is a specific Jira ticket. So this commit adds a note to the README about advanced users. That's all. Just little stuff like this make commit. Previous code example used a shorthand syntax that's not best practice to put into documentation. Also used PowerShell DSC resource that's not installed by default on this machine. So this is just a minor change.
And your Jira isn't open source that other people can see.
Actually, it is.
Is it?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do it from not this one. I'll do it from the one where I'm not logged in.
Like the
So if I do
module.
tickets, I believe this is one of our open source trackers. Because we ask people to come in and put stuff here all the time. Yes, this is the support root epic for DSC Lite, which is
Nice.
one of our ongoing projects. So yeah, you can come back and you
What
can find
year
any of
on
these. So, 7556, let me find one that has like a better example. 7574, 7554, yeah, we'll look at that one. Puppet fails to run on a host with 1.10 region packages, Puppet 4 and WMF5. Alright, so this is basically, we found a bug, we filed it, and so now if you're using, if you're looking at our project, you see this one, you know exactly what to go look up to see what spawned this change to our code base.
Right.
But we also include a whole bunch of information. Again, this information, it's not really for you. This is more for us, for the maintainer team. But you'll want to do similar type stuff and be very clear for your future development folks if you can be. This is a bit of a complicated example because it was our principal engineer and he's super detailed about putting his notes in. But yeah. So that's kind of where that comes from. If you're in GitHub stuff, like one of the projects we contribute to is Lingua Populi, header services. And so if you look at, yeah, so the Puppet editor services, I don't know if you use the Puppet extension for VS Code.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we work on it.
Is this?
So you'll see here we have GitHub 49. What's great is for the GitHub ones, if you do them like that, it actually links straight to the issue. So pretty neat. So yeah, so Populi is Puppet, Lingua is language. So this is the open source container for all the Puppet language stuff.
Why?
Because we're not technically part of Vox,
Mm-hmm.
so they wanted to have an open source namespace to put it under that wasn't also Puppet.
So they named it.
Well, we fought for a while about the namespace, and by fought I mean naming is really, really hard, and we didn't get anywhere for a couple of weeks. So we were just like, so we'll do Latin like everybody else does. Screw it. So like we don't have a better answer.
Jira is paid.
Jira is paid, yeah.
But you guys
Jira's like ServiceNow. It's just it's another ticketing
You need
system.
more?
I have it right
Look it
here. I'm not going to heat up for a minute.
Okay.
I will take a look at my phone stuff though.
Stretch the legs.
there any more questions? Any issues? Anything like that?
Check on his.
No, I'm good. I'm so back on track now.
You good?
Yeah.
Started working again?
Yeah, I redid everything. Just
Redid
so I could commit to memory, not memory, but
Yeah.
like
So,
truly understand what the hell is going on.
so when I originally designed this a couple months ago, one of our documentarians on our team, she was trying to learn Git for the workflow. She'd never used it before. So I was like, I gotta set up something that you could do as like a daily exercise to get you used to it. Because the truth is, if you do it one time and then don't do it again for a couple weeks, you get everything. It's not gonna stay.
Yeah.
It didn't for me. I didn't really start getting Git until I started working for Puppet.
Yeah, you got forced to use it.
Well, I
all
had
the
to use it
time.
every day. There's no choice, right? So so the idea is this is what is known as a kata. It's just a small daily exercise. The actual exercise that we're going to go through next is something that should take about 15 minutes if you're doing it on your own. It takes longer when I explain it because I go slow, right? But when you're doing it yourself, it should take 15 minutes or less a day, and then you can dedicate that over lunch or some other time, right when you get to work. I'll be constantly watching the repo and pulling and bringing in all the entries and stuff. So if you want to do practice on your own time, that's a fine way to do it, and that'll kind of get you used to it. After a while, it'll become second nature. You'll kind of see the stuff you're doing and understand the stuff a little bit better, and it'll be a little bit easier. It's super complicated and painful to start out with. I totally acknowledge that. So for those of you who closed your laptops, did it just get to be kind of painful?
When I cloned or when I forked the repo and I went into where it was like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, so I didn't want to.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Class
That's,
down and.
yeah. No worries. While we're on break, do you want to try to go through it?
Nah, I'm just.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Watch the video.
Yep.
Now mine's in a weird state.
What's yours? How's it in a weird state?
Well, so I can't get back to where I'm at in the branch.
Uh-huh.
I saw a thing one time. It said how to use. You can do everything you need with Git in 4 commands. Here's 70 videos to show you how to do it.
Oh wow.
That is not incorrect.
Yeah.
Go hit Q.
Oh, Q?
And then hit enter. And then clear.
Ah, I did it.
Oh, that will also work. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And if you do git add and then a period, that'll add those to your track.
But I didn't put in a maintenance thing. Or
Are you gonna?
Well, you haven't pushed it yet.
You pushed your original code. This is an addition on top of it.
So I moved it to the right directory. Moved my folder to the right directory and, then made
okay.
a modification
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
file.
What you actually want to do is git stash on this one. You're gonna get to see
So if
something
you
fun.
pushed it to the correct directory, does you have to actually change the file as
We
well?
already
I did.
merged his though.
Yeah, I know, but after you merge, so if you want to put it in the right location,
I did
no,
change the
'cause
file.
I guess the file is going to look at a delete and then an add, right?
Yeah. So
You need to cover renames. Renames are
you said
stupid.
git stash.
Yeah, git stash. What that's gonna do is it's just gonna take what you have there and it's gonna hide it for a minute. So do that real quick. Okay. We now do git checkout master. We're gonna do this with everybody else here in a minute too. So no worries. Space master.
So is he not going to push that?
No.
Okay.
Then do enter. And then do git fetch space dash dash all. Enter. Now you're gonna get a whole bunch of nonsense real quick.
Is there everybody's commits?
Yep, everybody's stuff comes down. Now do git space rebase space upstream slash master.
That autocomplete?
Oh, slash master.
And then enter.
There's a will, there's a way.
And then git push
I never can anyone
space dash u origin space master.
This is pushing this to his local master.
Yep. This is pushing. He's already pulled
Okay.
the changes to his
Yeah.
local master. Now he's gonna push to his fork. Now hit enter.
Okay.
So now your fork is synced. So now you're gonna do git checkout b. Dash b. Yep. Space fix bio. Then enter. And then do git stash apply.
What's that one do?
Enter. So Git stash, he took those changes he had earlier, and he just saved them and pulled them out of the working branch. So now they're back. So now if you do,
Oh, really?
Yep.
I,
so now if you do Git status, so you've got 2 new files, CLS and the bio, and you removed that other one.
Yeah, I removed it from the root.
Okay. So open it up in code, so we'll take a look at what the folder structure actually looks like right now, because it's kind of hard to see here. Okay, so you added it into the folder, and is that clear screen file supposed to live there, or is that an accident?
It's an accident.
Okay, so if the other stuff's fine, then just delete that.
So that was all the.
Yeah, just delete that. Recycle bin, and then do git status, and then git add, and then a space and a dot, and then enter, git status. Now I should just have that one change, and it should be the rename.
Yep.
Sweet. Now you could do your commit with the message, and then push again.
that's going to go to his local fork,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, he's gonna commit to his
It's gonna-
local
his-
copy
yeah.
first, and then he's gonna push to
His fork. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have Twitter?
Yes.
Or Slack or whatever. If you
Yeah.
want, we can follow up. And we can see if we can get you like a workshop where you don't feel like you're taking up time or whatever. I want to make sure you do get a chance to kind of go through the exercises and stuff, because I know it can be super duper frustrating when you get started.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely. And
yeah.
and I have a project for launch code that I blew up because I switched from Java 7 to Java 8, and it just exploded. And so it was working, and then so I didn't want to mess up
Yeah.
the repository,
Right.
and so I branched it, and now I've got it working again. And so I'm like
You
trying
need to get
to.
it back up. Yeah.
I need to get it back up.
Yeah, we could totally walk through that sometime. I have plenty of bandwidth tomorrow, or we can do it at the end of this if you want. Either way.
Okay.
Either works for me.
I need to get the changes that I made.
Are you trying to do the commit, or where are you at?
Oh, so
So
Push, he did the commit.
You did the commit, now you need to do the push.
Yeah,
so I did the commit here.
Yep. So now you need to do git push space dash u origin, and then fix bio. Just do fi tab, it should autocomplete.
But it's think about like writing the UI.
So what happens if you wanted to fork and never commit back to the map?
Then you would just merge it into your own thing instead.
All right, so,
So
I created another
You do
branch.
You would do the exact same thing you're doing here. You would just when you go to do the merge request, you can merge request on your fork instead.
Okay, so that is always going to try and push back to the original copy.
You always
Is
want to
there
push
any-
back to your copy. Yeah.
Is there? It's going to try and push back to your copy, then, right? Is there any way to permanently break that connection?
You just don't register with the upstream. Just don't add the upstream.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
So he could remove the upstream and that
Yeah.
would fix it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I needed to create another branch. Do the changes I needed to change, and
Yep.
then commit those changes, not stay in the same
Yeah,
branch I
correct.
was
You
in.
always
Okay.
you wanna leave those branches and prune them eventually. But that's out of scope for this.
I got you.
Okay, so
Yep.
a pull request.
Yes. So what a pull request
Sounds so backwards.
yeah, I know.
The title of it
Yes,
sounds,
it does.
Well, I really prefer the way that GitLab calls it. GitLab calls it a merge request.
Because when you
I want
commit,
you to merge this
you're
code.
staging them.
So think about it in
Stage a
terms
whole
of
bunch of files,
and
then when
a pull request is like, hey, I made these changes. I want you to pull them into your project.
Commit it.
I want you to take what I've done and pull it in.
It goes to the other one.
Because you can't do a push request, right? You can't say like, hey, I made these
And then
changes.
commit
Take them.
locally
They're
here.
yours now. Like you can't.
And then when
Like
you
that's
do a
not
push,
good like
you
open
push
source
the change
citizenship, right?
here to
That's pretty bad. But what you could do is you say, hey, I made these changes. Please pull these
But
in
not to his.
and use
Well,
these.
Okay, so I do the create.
Okay.
So,
There
but
it
now
is.
you got,
Yep.
you have
Oh,
compare.
this is
Yeah.
when I do the
Yeah.
compare,
Yeah.
push it back to him.
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
That's a great title.
It's all
move
I
the-
think about
the
most
bio
of the time.
name. You might want to put
Something
your
with
user
business.
name because that's
So
what
I'll
they kind of
take a
complained
look.
about.
So we've got entries and you've got tracking. Fair enough.
What happened to the video?
What? It's tracking that? Did I do something?
No, you're good.
No.
No, you're fine. As long as you made a
brought
file, that's all that I care about.
Okay.
They had projected 100 million in cryptocurrency.
So now we've got that merged in.
Actually,
so
it
you'll be
came
good
up
to
like
pick
10
up the rest of this whenever we start up again.
Well, that's
Awesome.
inflated market value and that kind of stuff.
Yay. You're
Way lower.
only
What your
everyone wrote
projections were way
instructions
higher.
as well as you did. They are spot on.
Would it surprise you
The
to
only
know
thing he's
that
missing is
And I'm
the
trying to build new
chocolate
machines, and I want good video
Git
cards, and I'm
install.
tired of paying
Oh,
$1,000
come on.
for
You
a
don't
piece
need
of
help
video.
with that. That was actually, I had to do that. That was actually.
Somebody was putting mining on.
No.
Ah! We got an awesome. We got some awesome stuff.
I had access to the APC.
Come back to code. So here's something interesting. We can take a look now. We see that there's 20 forks.
Underneath
We
the
can
floor.
see that all these things happen. So we got Alana's fix, we
tables
got
down.
Ken's stuff.
Do you have his
Machine.
new?
Guy had access to
Oh,
everything.
you
He could have
just
just
did it
gone
over
to
the
the
phone.
and we would have never seen it.
Like just seconds ago.
But he put up a machine on it?
So you can kind of see how all these things flow together.
That's exactly right. Duct tape the hell out of it. Slow it down. This is true. This is true.
Okay.
But then there's ways to couch that and hide that, and
Is that a surface book?
this-
I am super jealous.
especially if you're, in a lab environment.
I had a surface
Oh,
book
we're running
before,
some
but,
stress tests.
Mine, I
This is
messed
a
up
new
because the first one I had,
Open source
no
stress
issues, no
test
problems.
tool that we
It
found.
was the
Just playing with
tiniest
it.
bit of light bleed on the side, and I was
But
like,
when you got cables that run
I
out of the
paid
rack
like
into the
this,
floor,
I'm gonna get
and there's a
it.
machine stuffed
I
under there,
messed up,
And
so when
everything
I
else
didn't have
is
problems.
beautifully.
Every
Yeah,
single surface
yeah.
book before I got back after that had all kinds of
it's like,
problems.
please catch me.
Two of them would
Please
just
catch me.
continuously reboot
They
on me.
did.
One of them I was like, all right, this is good, and then
That was
the
when
fan
we were still
turned
here.
off. So it would just run
Yeah.
as if it was going full speed.
Ah, I doubt it. It was
So my battery would just
it was one of the, I want to say it was a
And so it was
PS
like-
guy or something
took
like
back
that.
like 4 times after that. And I was just like,
I remember it.
this is probably not possible. Could you
remember?
track
I
down the one I
cannot-
gave you the
I cannot
first time?
right
Like,
before
I just
I
want
started.
that one back. Like,
Okay.
I'll take the light bleed.
How long have you
They're
been?
like, no, that one's already been refurbished from results.
2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Like, well,
'Cause I've
the
been
other
gone
ones
a year
were
and a
already
half.
selling it, and then
I want to say
going
a
back to
little
having
bit
a
longer than
desktop.
that. So maybe about 6 months
but I
before
started
that
working for
is when he
Puppets,
when,
so I was
when he
like,
got
we'll buy you a
popped.
developer laptop, and like.
I want to say Hendy was up there already. Henderson was
Yeah,
up
okay.
the street
No,
already.
why not?
But I work full remote now,
That was
so
it.
like I'm
I don't
always
know if
at
there was
my
anybody else
desk
up there.
anyway, so
I don't know that he's the one that told us about it. I think I heard about it through a different chain though.
As you can tell, like I used to my setup, and I don't like leaving it behind. So no, but the surface.
We identified a VM that was running at 100% constantly. That's
I think that's a problem.
Generally speaking, that's because somebody wrote some very poor SQL. You just select start.
Did you find any problems whenever you removed the screen? I've talked to a couple people who had some problems whenever they would try to reattach the screen to the base.
Who was I'm trying to remember. There's a DBA.
I call it the service one. The service one actually is performed very well.
Okay.
It doesn't have all kind of problems, but this one has.
I think he still works here. Married somebody who works
It reminds
here.
me of like what happened to Apple over like the
Divya.
last 4 or 5 years. Like
I can't
Apple
believe I
used
can't
to
remember
have
his kid's name.
killer hardware quality control.
Matt Parker's
Something's
and
happened.
you had Matt.
Hardware
He sat all the way
quality
down at the end.
folks just fall apart.
He always did.
I don't know if they
He,
just don't care anymore because they're like,
He was doing
you
the co-
spent
worth the coffee
$3,800. What are you gonna do
Yeah.
about it?
tech. He
I
had all
think
the
you can take it
research.
back for
Go for home
$1,200.
tech. He bought the
Just
Nissan
try to
Maxima.
make things cheaper.
Sure.
Yeah.
Call it pays.
For sure.
Sure, recognize the name.
I guarantee you would. I mean, we work with him.
Yeah.
Like constantly. I'm having a brain fart at the moment.
He's moved to Florida.
Yeah.
It's his wife
Okay.
got a job down there.
Okay, cool.
Now he's going to be working remote, even though they don't allow remote work.
Oh, Ken's cleaning up the. I should help him. I should do something
Yeah, thanks.
Where-
We can put it
Go
away.
be the eye candy.
Yeah, I'll just stand right there. It'll be fine.
I've been in the office one day this week.
It's mainly the lingo.
I think that's enough for
Like
this
the
week.
process is,
For this gig, I turned down
it's
another
seeming
gig that was
pretty
100%.
but just God,
Mine is just
when you say
work.
create
Come
pull
in,
requests,
go
I'm
home.
like
I don't care. Just work.
creating.
Is it done? Good. That's all I care about.
The word's too literal for
I'm
me. I
in
guess.
PS, so
Alright, well, we
I'm on road
Ken
enough
can
that
catch up to us.
when I'm in town, I show up
Yeah, and that's good, right? I mean, 'cause that's a little FaceTime. I like doing that. I'll come in once or, that's about it. And go home and get some work done. I come in to socialize, catch up on all the gossip,
So, side note,
and then go home and get some work done.
if you get an idea.
So that's Remember you talking to Dirker about trying to get an RV?
There's a lot of different ways.
I asked him
so I
when I used to work.
use
I'd like to work.
or I just
100%. I want to get an RV and we want to travel the country. And of course, that got shot down.
I wing it. I'm terrible. No,
So I
I
made the same
just
comment to my new boss.
I just start
He's
writing
like,
code.
We already
Yeah,
got
I
one
just
guy
start
doing that.
writing code. That's not how you should do things. That's not good design.
Sweet.
I would question
And then,
it in an
think
RV
about
rather
how
than.
concerned you'd be if you like went to a building and you're like, all right, so we're gonna build a new house, right? And he was like, yeah, here's
We
the
just
thing.
spent- we spent
I
a
just
week
figure
and a
we'll
half
like
up
lay
in
some
West West
foundations
West.
and then put some stuff on it. It'll be good. Trust me, I got vision. You'd be like, I don't know if you're the architect I want for my house anymore.
Oh,
But like
God.
that's how I approach code projects. So
I got vision.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
vision.
There's so many places.
It's
As
like
long
my
as you're
house
parked
fell over
or you
and
get a
killed
hotspot.
everyone inside because of course it did.
They're flexible on the
Didn't know what it was
hours,
doing.
as long as the work is getting done.
To write some notes on trying to figure out what
Yeah,
functions and
design. So if you do like design spec or whatever, and you want to put that down, that's a totally
guaranteed.
valid approach.
Yeah, I know
It's a
there are.
smarter approach than mine.
Just not official.
Like that's a good way to
Yeah.
go about it.
sometimes think I get too involved.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
Yeah.
It's a PO box. Yeah,
So-
but it's yeah.
It's
So-
getting
okay.
from there and
I heard.
I mean,
heard
I've got one guy on my
I can't remember who
team.
gave
I've
it.
seen
It
him
might
once
have
the last year and a half because he lives in upstate
been,
rural New York.
CEO of Chef, a while ago, where he
He's been with the
talked
company
about the difference
for
between
17 years,
iteration and
100% remote.
And so
Half the people that I work with are
the idea
all remote.
was, if you were going to sit down to
Not a
paint
big deal.
like the Mona Lisa, how would
There's
you
certain
do it?
expectations. You got to be available.
You wouldn't try to paint a corner,
Beatings
probably, and
and
then a little bit more around it, and then paint a little bit. You wouldn't try to like go like that, right?
I will say that's the one thing that we do really well
You do
where we're
like a
at.
basic sketch of like a woman in a pastoral setting, and be like, hey, is
When
this
we
kind
have
of what we're
meetings,
going?
I'm used to. I want to go face to face.
Yeah,
Even when
that's
everybody's in the
fine, but, like,
building,
I want her more in the
everybody's
center.
at their desk
I
on the
want more
phone.
of the focus on her
That's
and
just
on
the-
the
that's the
pastoral
culture.
landscape, so you make her
We
bigger,
dial into the meetings.
landscape a little bit so the
Even if you're on site.
Okay. Now you
It
come
does
back and
make
say,
a
hey,
difference.
so
The way
here's some of the colors that
they
kind of
built
think
this
of, like,
up.
loose palette kind of ideas, like her sleeves
do
kind
wherever
of
you
this,
want.
her hair's kind of like this. The background's like
As long as
these
you got
sleeves,
access
these browns,
and everything is
this one kind of
tied
thing.
down.
That's kind of good, but I
security
think it should be a
perspective.
little bit more muted.
I mean,
You know,
I had-
it's a little too bright for this.
I used to have hair,
I don't
long
know.
hair, pulled it all out.
seems like it slipped down.
Some of the loose stuff. Is this kind of what you want?
But,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's the trade-off. Everything is so locked down.
Paint it out, and now you have a painting of a woman in a pastoral setting, and you say,
You got to go through the Citrix, this, that, and everything is secure ID and VPN and certificates and layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. If you're the right guy, and if you have all the
paint a
right things,
corner
and
of
if
the
you
Mona
can get
Lisa,
this,
and then
then
paint another corner, and then paint the strip between the corners, and then do all that.
God forbid if you want to get on a different server, because that's a whole different team and group, and you have to wait a month to get it all approved.
You produce some sort of nonsense that nobody actually wants.
I spent the first 6 months just trying to get access to various things just to be able
Talk
to do
about
stuff.
incremental versus
Half
iterative
the time I
design.
would
Don't try to
build stuff on
build
my
everything
laptop
out from the start.
and email it in.
What's the most valuable
that,
thing you
'cause I
can
just
do
couldn't do
in
it.
the shortest amount of time?
Get access for 21 days.
Do that
and
thing, and
takes a
then
week to
find out
renew it.
was that useful, was that valid, did it work, right? And then
So
once
I
you've
have to
got that
submit
one
something
thing,
like
you can
every
build on
14
another thing and
days.
another thing. Now, along the way, what this might mean is you have to come back and like,
Yeah, but I bet you got
I
a
didn't build
great
things out in
cable
such a
package at
way
home now.
that it was really easy to put other stuff
So
together.
there's
So I had
that.
to go back and do how to retrofit some of that stuff, right? But if the thing that you build in the
I
first
got a
place
real
is
good
useful
deal when I
at all,
rented my
then
van up in
there's
Washington.
no loss because it, like you didn't have to refactor.
Somebody
it
hit me
anyway.
up after I started there and goes,
Find
"Hey,
out whether or not it's
I know this is kind of
That's kind of goes back to like the
one of
whole.
those things,
like,
but I know you work there now. Can you give me a discount?"
To start with something small.
Well, actually, we do provide that, and I gave him the discount. It was so bad, he's like, "No, thanks. I'm gonna go across the street and use my vendor."
Oh, and it's
It was
so
really-
easy to
it was-
forget
it was
that like,
embarrassing.
that's not the normal way that we
God, who was the guy? He does Apple
like,
stuff
it's
now,
not like default ways. Like we think like
Yeah,
I gotta
the guy
write out
before
all
him.
the steps and then go through all the steps.
and he's got his own Apple
The
consulting
thing that,
company
helped me
downtown
visualize
now.
this really well
He was
was
here
the
for a
idea
while.
Of trapped value.
I can't remember his
When you
name.
get value back out of the system. So like, a good example of this is, have you ever done like a
He hit me
firewall
up.
upgrade? You ever been like
And after I
80%
showed him
of
the discount, he's like,
firewall upgrade before? Or like
Sorry, that's all I can get, man. You know, it's like 5 or 10%.
server migration is like 80% of the way to making
And
the new
from
server
our
ready to
list
take
price,
the application, right?
It's
Okay,
still
what does that mean?
way
Well, I
more
got most of the
than
work
half the
done.
capacity.
So how much of the applications have moved over? Well, none of them are live yet.
I was able to rent a van,
Okay, so what's the value? Well, I'm 90% of the
1,500
way
miles
there.
on it.
So,
no mileage
but
cost.
nothing's come out of it yet, right? So until you get to 100%, there's no value. versus the approach of being like, so
Not
that was
employee.
that'd be if like you were trying to take
Now,
all of
my
your
wife
2003
rents it.
stuff, build an
She
environment
doesn't get that
in
good of a deal.
2012 for all the
My kids rent it, they
2003
get even
stuff,
less of a deal.
and then be ready to go. Versus like,
So
let's
it's
just
like
pick a
They
application
design
running
it
on
to
2003,
discourage you from
move that
handing
to
out.
2012. Let's scope it smaller, do one
Really
thing, get that work,
Bad.
and then as soon as that one's over, it's like, okay, what have you accomplished? This one's running on secure and safe hardware. We moved over the financial stuff first. Right? It's a different approach to how you're going to solve those problems, and that can make a huge difference
I
in what
just
you get
find
back
if
out of
when
it.
I get an idea, I need to think.
9, 10
right now,
months
what
ago.
I'm thinking of, maybe not all the stuff.
It'll be 2 years.
Because then if I come back to
That long?
Wow.
90
Yeah,
other things
Because
are
I've been
gonna
gone
happen,
almost a year.
and I'll forget what the hell.
So one of the interesting things is what you're describing is known in the writing world as the architect versus the gardener.
I don't miss the politics.
It's a job, all the blueprints that have been laid down, get it all out of there, get it all in.
I see people.
Everybody has lunch with Marty.
Have all
Fair
this,
enough.
now
So
we're good
no
to go.
one responded.
Right?
The mayor.
The gardener says, I'm going to plant some stuff, I'm going to plant some stuff.
Mayor of everything.
Mayor WWT.
Take a look, I'm
That's
going
what he
to
is.
tend to it as it grows. I tend to be more of an architect too. Like, for the longest time, I just wanted to get everything out there.
You know, when we start
put it on
talking about,
that.
man, you should
So
do
it's still
there's an opening. I'm like, oh yeah.
When it's done,
No.
right here,
No.
and I start doing
So I don't
stuff,
understand
I
how
get
you can
sidetracked a little bit, and come back to it, and I'm like,
I can't think of
Yes, yeah.
so I try to give you some
difficult
notes that
circumstance I would think
captures
of
what
my
my original thoughts.
So the one guy, who was
Not
the
real
Melzer?
At least I got a stream.
It's Melzer, right? So he left for one Express Scripts.
It's a Varmillo.
I understand
No.
why he came back here. He was only here.
That's
He
from
boomerang
the
for 6
Varmillo
months.
cable.
He just had to get out of Express Scripts. Like everybody
This is
dumping
Orthodox
out of
Easy.
Express Scripts. Now I keep hearing
It's
because we lost one of our
the
big
Orthodox
executives
Easy.
to them.
So I don't have
They
the
were doing
the
everything.
fucking
Now
with
they've
me.
been bought.
But all these keycaps
And
come off,
it's
and
a
then
whole new
keys
thing.
themselves are a hot
That's
spot.
not
I can pull the keys out.
just a little bit less.
The actual switches. Yeah.
So mechanical.
Nope.
Yeah, they're definitely mechanical.
me into there.
These are cherry grades.
In Express Scripts?
Yeah.
No actual
And where's he at today?
like letters.
Well,
Pivotal.
No,
the pivotal sign is Express Scripts.
Oh, is he really?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh, yeah,
that
I'm on
hardcore. Let's be clear.
Okay.
I was thinking that too, but I sat here and came back and I seen the letters
Yeah,
on
no,
the
I
front,
have
and
the
I was
front
like,
printed.
They posted a picture on the
okay.
front of the conference.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're front printed because I have dirty Italian fingers that are
Conference, yeah,
oily
so
and
they're-
disgusting,
Yes.
and so like they'll leave shiny stuff on top and like slowly wear stuff away.
Close enough to see.
These did not come with it, right? The thing came with blank keycaps. I bought front printed keycaps to put on top.
They're having fun.
He's meant to do
You
that.
actually made the keycaps?
Not as much as I did when I first started. I typed like a toddler when I got this keyboard.
Oh, okay.
I was real bad. Like it
You
was
have
not.
such a way with words. I love it.
I was not good at typing on this keyboard for like a solid 2 months, which was right before I went to Summit. So I was like trying to type out my presentation on this. I was like, the cat in the hat. Like I couldn't type to save my life. So
What's with that weird key over there?
which one? This one? There's no key to map to it. I don't actually remember what this does.
Really random, crappy.
Well, no, like these all used to be like these
he's got a
ones.
self-destruct button.
Yeah.
Really? That's how they came.
It was all black. There was no
and there was no printing on
no
them at
printing
all.
on anything.
Why would they do that? Is
Well,
that how you
I ordered it that way
Did you
because I
really
knew I
buy
was going to
these?
replace these ones. Yeah.
Was it cheaper?
No, I mean it's the same price. But I knew I was immediately going to swap out the alphas,
Okay.
so it didn't matter. Anyway, we're doing Git, not talking about my keyboard. That's for afterwards.
Alphas are what?
We're talking about Git
Not the
because
key.
the rest of the class doesn't care about my keyboard. Probably.
They don't know what they're missing.
Okay,
So you're on your
are
thing,
we on our
and
master
then
or are we
you're
on our
gonna you're gonna do this one. You're gonna do Git checkout master. Shada. Then you're gonna do Git, not get.
Which branch to master?
Yep. You're gonna do fetch -- all.
That's moving it to our Git master.
And it did it.
Yep. And then you
Why
guys,
is yours
because
still?
I'm on my actual copy, because now I can make changes instead of the upstream, the one that I had that wouldn't work on anything.
Yeah.
So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna do
Oh.
Git Rebase Upstream Master.
So what?
Because what this is gonna do is it's gonna bring you into sync.
So mine is in sync.
So wait a
If
minute.
you've already done this, then you don't have to do it again, but you should.
Why
So
we
we
do
created a branch.
Yep.
We deleted the branch.
Yes.
So then I switched to master on my local
Yeah. So
to get fetch.
Yep.
does what?
Git fetch says, hey, all of the remotes, give me all your info. Give me all the, tell me where everything's at.
Okay, so I've done that, and now Rebase will pull from Upstream
master. Yep.
and sync it local.
Yep.
And I'll have to push that to my origin.
Yep, like this.
Up.
That's the command you'll use.
Master.
So why do we do the fetch all after we check out the?
Because your machine doesn't see all the changes that happen on the remotes. It's not like constantly reaching out to GitHub every 5 minutes to be like, hey, did anything change?
But nothing
change?
would have changed on that. We're just doing that.
It did change.
It did merged. Everybody merged into his
we
master.
We had like.
So now
our master doesn't show that.
That's why you did the fetch.
Oh,
well.
Fetch?
No, you did git fetch all because you wanted to see those changes on Upstream master.
And now if I go into entries, I see everybody's entries.
But mine doesn't show master 18. Mine shows green.
Right, yours does because this is I'm on my origin one, so I'll show you. If I do,
your other one. Okay.
Because I wanted to be able to actually make changes here.
Right.
So if I do git remote v, you'll see that this is me with my origin. This is my actual honest copy. So for me, what I'll do here, what I could do here, I'll do this because it's dumb, but I can do it because this is America and you can't stop me.
Good. You just have the upstream the same.
Git rebase upstream master. Waka 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 waka. Hey look! That happened! And then if I do git push dash u origin master.
You got a space between your dash and your U.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy. I don't know why I'm looking up there instead of the one literally in front of my face down here.
Because. And it's super creepy for the people on the call because they're gonna be like, and I'm typing at you.
That's how I type. That's how I learned. I'm playing with marionettes. So yeah, so you'll have done the git fetch, right? So you did git fetch dash all, and then you did git rebase upstream master. Ignore the double E's.
So
upstream.
So which part?
Those are the commands that you just ran.
So
you can't just do it's not a pull request, just a pull down.
Like a sync?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are other tools that'll wrap some of this stuff for you, but all it's doing is hiding the complexity, and you're eventually probably going to need to know it anyway.
So rebase is basically the same as a pull.
No. Sort of. Okay. Without going too in depth, there's a bunch of really cool magic shit you can do with Rebase, where you can change history. What you're doing in this case, because it's ahead of you strictly, when you do Rebase, it just takes those commits and throws them over the top of yours. You're saying, I want to take what's on Upstream Master and I want to rebase that stuff on top of mine. If you were making changes that affect the stuff, you might want to rebase your stuff on top of Upstream Master. I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. Go ahead, kid.
So at this point, just because I want to, I have only run git fetch all.
Yes.
I have not rebased yet.
Yes.
Is there a way to see that my master is out of date from your master?
If you do git log -- one line, you're not showing, so.
I know, but
if you do git log -- one line, what you'll see is that you've got head master, origin, head. You did fetch all or just regular fetch?
Fetch all.
So upstream is past you. You can't see it. If you do, I don't remember how to check the log for a different branch. Is it this? Okay. Yeah, so if I do -- one line, upstream, master. So yeah, so here you can see that your upstream would have been ahead of you, right?
I do that too. Online.
Yeah, so upstream master you can see is ahead of where your master is. Oh, okay. Right down here.
Because it's red to my master's green.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in line of. Okay.
Okay.
Lovely. Git Rebase.
Nope.
No.
Upstream / master. Are you on master right now? Is it old?
Rewinding. Yeah, so it just plays the commits over the top of mine.
Correct.
So now I have 18 things in master that need to be committed.
Need to be
Mine was
pushed. They're already
Pushed. They're committed. Okay, so git push. And I don't have to do anything because I'm on master.
Now,
Wait, I committed to master.
I'm very happy for you.
Okay.
So now we're going to check out our new branch, and we're going to do Lombardi entry. Example. You can call it whatever you want. I don't actually care. Just give it a descriptive name, something that doesn't conflict with an existing branch on your machine.
How do I clear out the branch? Like if I deleted my branch?
There's a bunch of different nonsense ways. There's a command. We'll look it up in a sec.
Branch, like clean.
So now that I've got that, I'm gonna just go into code. I'm gonna go into entries. I'm gonna go into my entries, and I'm gonna add something here. tp.md. It doesn't actually matter. Now if I do git status, then I do git add entries, Mike Lombardi tp.md, which is the one that I just made. Do git status again, so that I have a new file. And if I do git diff, it'll show the differences, which it's not, because it's just a brand new file. I keep forgetting that over and over again for no good reason. So git show? What is the thing I'm thinking of? Yeah, that's what I wanted. Not that it matters. Anyway, so then I'll do my commit. I don't remember. Active probably. So at this point, that should be kind of familiar. You're going to make your change, add your change, commit your change, push your change. Okay, and then I'm going to come back over here. Oh man, look. There's a pull request. I'm going to create a pull request. And I'm going to do something that's seriously an adult move. I'm going to approve my own pull request. And what could possibly be wrong? That's normal. Oh, I can't. I forgot.
Your notes say specifically not to do that.
And they're correct. So I'll need somebody else to review and don't merge, but review this. But if everybody else, did you make your changes?
No, you went too fast for me.
Oh, okay, well hold up. I'll go back over and I'll do another thing. So here we go. I'll just add another thing. I added this and but also this.
Did you want us to all make a T?
Yeah, no, I don't care what you make. Make literally any change.
File anywhere?
Any file, or edit your own file.
Do that, but not in master. I have to make a new branch.
Yes, make a new branch. Git checkout B. You wanna run this command. I don't care, honestly, what you call it.
Biscuits?
I don't care. It doesn't matter what you call the branch. It's not actually important. It doesn't matter at all.
Okay, I'm in my branch.
You want to make sure before you make any changes that this changes from master to something else. You never want to make changes to master. You don't want to be like Ken. What were you doing?
It doesn't matter where I put this in here. You don't care. Just
As long as it's in your folder, I don't care. How clear do I need to make the instructions for you, Ken? The code page should be something normal. Don't change the code page on me. Don't change the line endings. don't use weird characters. Use UTF-8. I don't know how specific I have to get here, Ken. I didn't think you were going to try to break my lab on purpose. But I probably should have known better.
I tried to follow your instructions online.
Yep.
And you don't have the fetch dash all.
Well, because it tells you to fetch upstream instead.
Okay, that does the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so fetch dash all is something I didn't know about when I wrote this originally. So that'll fetch all of your remotes.
Okay.
Which, if you only have 2, doesn't really matter. You're probably only fetching upstream frequently. But if you're like me and I have like 7 or 8 or 9 remotes now, because I'm constantly working with my coworkers, doing fetch all shows me all the changes that they've made too.
Okay.
So that'll be pretty important. It's also shorter. It turns out dash all is probably shorter than whatever their username is. So you get all the changes with no extra pain.
So I committed.
So you committed, and then you do. Once you've committed, you do git
Yeah,
push,
this thing. Yeah.
issue,
And if I do it, it's going to
origin,
tell me no.
blah blah blah.
And if you do git push, it'll work, right?
Yeah. Now that you've set it up, it should work. It shouldn't blow up on you every time. Can't let you break.
Oh, I'm just setting my upstream.
So if I do git status,
It pushed.
git add, git commit.
Now, this is the reason we're having to set the upstream and all that is because we're creating the branch locally here and pushing that up. If you were to create the branch in the GUI and check out the GUI, check out that branch via.
Don't do that. That's a very confusing way to do it versus just you're already going to be working locally. You want to make the branch locally and then push. And also, if you do push dash u, even if it's the same, even if that branch already exists, it'll just make sure that it's tracking it, right? So there's no harm in adding the dash u in the remote name. It just for me, I do it all the time because it clarifies every time I'm doing it. So like I don't ever because like if you just do git push after you've set a tracker, it'll push to that one. But if you goof that up at some point and forgot which one it was pointing to, you could accidentally push to the something you're not paying attention to.
But you're not pushing the remote, you're pushing to your origin, right?
What's the remote?
Okay, what happens if you specify the actual
The
remote?
upstream?
Yeah.
Then it would push your branch to there.
Okay.
Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but isn't what you're trying to do.
Okay.
Most corporate environments, you're not going to use upstream to push to the repo that you fork from, right?
Right. Most environments will be pushing back to your fork. They'll be pushing back to your branch, your fork, your copy of the main project. This is this assumes you're following a fork and branch workflow. If you're just following a branch workflow, it's pretty much the same, but you don't have to worry about upstream. But you're never ever committing to master. You're always making a new branch, pushing that up, and then syncing to what's up at the upstream or the origin or whatever, and then making a new branch. You're always making new branches off of master.
How do you know when you close out a branch?
What do you
How do you know when to sync it to master?
I will show you that in just a second. Has everybody submitted their pull requests?
No,
Go ahead and submit your pull request for your new changes.
I committed it, but it didn't go anywhere.
Again, I'm trying to look on the screen instead of right in front of my face. So I'm a goofer. So I'm going to show you guys something that can happen.
Git push. How did yours know? Oh, did you use the same? You used the same branch as before, didn't you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you did.
Can I view
Oh
it
wait,
here?
go back for a second. Yeah, entry example versus so for whatever reason. Oh, look, you spelled check and it didn't do it, so you just did all of your stuff in the same branch.
So we're going to do a pull request of what we just changed back to your repo?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I'll come back to the pull requests. So we've got this one. We've got a new file, so I'll come over to look here. New file with new information. Okay. Now we'll hit commit. This looks fine. Okay, I'm going to come back and approve and merge.
several other branches.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't. Do you normally, in your normal day to day, when people submit pull requests, is there not an NDA, but a license agreement?
It depends. It depends. A lot of places will have a contributor license agreement.
Yeah, that's it.
Puppet's core stuff, like if you're committing back to Puppet core, there's a CLA. A lot of that stuff's automated now. In a lot of cases, like my actual projects, I have a contributors file that tells you what I expect, but there's no like official like CLA you have to sign. If you're doing work internally, you probably don't have one because everybody that's working on it's in your company. If you're doing open source kind of stuff and you need to have a CLA, you probably talked to legal already and got that kind of stuff squared away, or you'll make them sign it or agree to something. There's a bunch of automated workflows that GitHub can plug into for that. So if you've ever committed to like a Microsoft repo or a VMware repo, you've probably seen that. And then the Puppet one has it as well. That's a quick check to see if you've signed a CLA.
Denied, poor crap. So because you reused it, your original code's already set. So you did example. Okay, so if you just do git push, it's gonna bitch and tell you that no, you actually have to do it with the correct thing, which is gonna be your you're gonna do this.
So here's something you can check out. So if we look, if I do
you origin and then your
git log run line, I do upstream.
Oh.
Master. So here we can see that. Oh, I should have done a fetch first.
Yes.
I'm not the one who messed that up, Ken. Don't yell at me.
You said I could place it anywhere in my folder.
That's not in your folder, is it?
Well, it's in my.
So we'll see that my master is here, and then the upstream stuff is here, right? So because I merged a bunch of your changes in, but if I just do a git log one line against mine, we'll see that. Well, hold on. Why doesn't mine match up? I have 2 commits and then master, but there were 4 commits. So my history doesn't match up. So what I can do, there aren't actually any conflicts, but if there were, this would be how I would take care of them. So I can actually I can rebase my branch on top of upstream master. And now you'll see it's behind 2 and ahead 6 because I pulled those in. So what I would do in this case, git push force, and now it's even. And now if I do git log one line, we'll see that there's the upstream master right there. Here's my current master back here, and my actual changes. So sometimes you'll have to rebase on the upstream master in order to make sure that you've got the latest change sets that are in, especially if there was going to be a sort of conflict, which I'm not going to manufacture for tonight. So now if I go back,
That went to your branch.
say again?
That went to your branch?
Yes, I force pushed on my branch on my fork, so I didn't affect the history of the actual project. So I will dismiss my review because you made changes. Do I have to review you again, Ken? Is that what's about to happen?
Well, what I wanted to do, and I think no,
Yeah.
I haven't. I made the change locally, committed it, but that means I need to do a pull request, and instead I was thinking I could do the git amend, committed. Can I do that?
You could do an amend, but what we're going to do actually in this case is, well, yeah, just do an amend. That'll be easier. There's no reason to confuse everybody with a rebase right now.
So
An interactive rebase.
But I've already committed and pushed back up.
Yeah, so you'll just do a force push, which is okay on your branch of your fork. You can rewrite history as much as you please before your code gets
So would I
merged.
do a push performance?
After you do your amend. Actually, in your case, you will have to hang on. Take over for a second. I'm going to walk you through a squashing rebase.
Okay.
This is advanced stuff I don't actually expect you to remember or recall or care about. This is something that will eventually come up, though, and when it does, feel free to reach out to me for help.
So here's what happened. I committed, or I sent my file over to Mike, and now in this case it's actually updated it to the right place, right? But
there's 2 commits showing that it happened.
Right. So I put this file in the root. Yes, suck it in the root. And then I did another on my local here to do. I renamed it, moved it to the right file, did another commit, and then did a push up to my local.
So now if you do git log -- one line, okay, you get that, and then if you do git diff master,
oops,
Control C. Yep. Try again. Okay, so here you'll see that he just added a line in a new file, right? So here's the problem. He's got 2 commits, but only 1 actual change. So you want to avoid doing things like that because it can make your Git history cluttered and a little bit painful to follow. So what we're going to have him do, this is an advanced thing that the rest of the group doesn't have to do, is we're going to do what's called an interactive rebase. We're going to take those 2 commits, rewrite history, and turn them into 1. So now do git space rebase space -I space head all caps ~2, then enter. This should bring you into Vim. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here, but it actually tells you what each one does. Pick will just reuse the commit exactly it is, no changes. Reword will let you change the commit message itself. Edit lets you go in, make some changes, amend the commit before you carry on, which will also allow you to change the message in addition to the actual files themselves. A squash says, hey, I want you to use this commit, like take this one's message, put it on the commit before it, and take its changes up with it. A fix-up is the same thing as squash, except it says throw away the commit message, just put these changes on the commit before it. Exec, I've never used, can't think of a good reason to. Drop just says take this commit and throw it away. It's not useful, I don't want it, get rid of it. And I don't use label or reset either, and I don't use merge. So really the ones you're going to find most commonly is going to be pick, reword, edit, squash, and fix up. So in this case, what we actually want is to turn the first one into a reword. You're going to want to just delete the pick and put an R. Yep, and then we're going to want to change the second pick into a fix up, so F. Okay, and then you're going to do escape.
Can I change these or no?
You don't want to change them here.
Okay.
You're going to do escape, and then :WQ for write and quit.
Good old Vim.
Yep. Okay, so now you get to change the commit message. So here, just put this into whatever you want it to be. Okay. Yep. And then you'll notice that it carried on all on its own. So now do, before you do git push, do git log -- one line. And now you'll see on SunGravy you just have that one git commit message now that's add a simple file. And if you do Q and then git diff master, you'll see that your diff against master is the same thing. It's the exact same set of changes, but now there's only one commit with a different message. So what this lets you do is, this is the under the hood kind of advanced magic of Git. You're rewriting history before it gets merged in. You never ever do this to master on the upstream, right? You never want to mess with the canonical version of history, but it's totally okay to rewrite history on your end if you have to. You're probably going to run into cases where you're going to want to do this or you're going to think this is necessary. It's totally okay to reach out to me on Twitter or Slack or email or whatever, and I'll help walk you through it because I know it can be confusing and painful. and then you'll do git push space dash dash force. That won't work. Yeah, we're gonna talk about oh shit git for sure. All right, I'll take ownership back.
And if you look at it on your side,
Yep.
in the pull request,
Just where I think I was. Okay.
Yep.
So now, as soon as this comes back up. Okay, so see that there were the two. And when I do a refresh now, there's just the one. If I come back over to files changed, it's just that original content.
yep, and it's in the new path, not in the root. Entries might be the same
Yep.
file or some file.
I'll go ahead and approve. And merge. Confirm that merge.
Doesn't GitHub do something like that already? Isn't there a smash or something?
It is a terrible idea. Do not squash and merge.
In the
Squash and merge bad.
it does some really weird things when you go back to see about, like, there's the when you go to do the merge on the pull request, there's a drop down to do squash and merge or something, and what?
It's pretty great. I appreciate this.
But
I'm gonna request
but-
changes on that one.
but you didn't set result size limited.
That would have been better. You're right. Who was that clever person?
That was me.
Color me surprised. So yeah, so rebasing will come up occasionally. So the reason you don't want to do the squash and merge is what you want when you're putting together your pull request is you want a series of atomic commits that explain what you changed and why, and each of those things passes CI or tests or whatever. So like, let's use the example of I'm adding a new function to a project. So that new function might have two private functions that I create separately, right, that are necessary for it to be used. So I create those two in their own commits. Those get added. And then the third commit, I add the actual function in. And then the fourth commit, I expose it as being in the module, right? So that would be the four atomic steps. What you don't want to do is squash it all, because if it turns out that you needed to cherry pick something or there was an error somewhere along the way, you want those atomic commits. If you do the squash and merge, it turns all of your changes into one thing, and then you can't pick out the individual atomic pieces that you worked on. So squash and merge can be useful. It can kind of like show you a more clean, neater little history, but generally you can also head that off at the pass by making really good atomic commits and then pushing those up. And again, I'm perpetually available to help kind of like go through this stuff. If you follow through on this project over the next couple of weeks, if you want to do like a daily entry or something, and you want to do a couple entries a day, whatever, I'll be paying attention. I'll merge your stuff probably as fast as I can. If it doesn't look like I'm answering you, hit me up on Slack or Twitter or something. Just ping me, and then I'll go ahead and take a look. But I usually check this every morning and then around lunch, that sort of thing. So the real thing to kind of keep in mind here is that this stuff is not super easy, and it's the last thing that I would call intuitive. So the fact that it takes a little bit of time to go through and to get through each of these pieces is totally normal. WWT. There's the history.txt.
Now, aside from this visual stuff that you're doing, just to see what is being brought in, are there any other like tests of running this code prior to committing it that you're?
Yeah, so you can do stuff like that. So if like you were using like PowerShell, I would have tester tests, and I would make sure my tester test passed before I committed, or that kind of thing. There's nothing There's like another more advanced topic would be what are called Git Hooks. So on a Git hook, you can tell it whenever I do a commit, run the test stuff, and if the tests fail, bail out. Don't let me commit. I cannot commit failing code. Right? So you can do that kind of advanced stuff, or like before I push it, you can check and see like if I updated function files but I didn't update the README, then don't let me go forward, right? Or if I didn't update the change log, then don't let me push the change. That kind of thing. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do. I think I was still drinking out of that. You're right. You're good. My bad. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do around making your workflow kind of a little bit tighter, but that's a little bit outside of the scope of just learning to do this kind of Git workflow. So what I was trying to teach tonight was that you're going to fork a repository. You're going to clone that fork locally, add the upstream canonical project as a remote, and then that's what you're going to use to sync every time you want to make new branches and changes. And you're always going to make your changes on a short-lived feature branch. So you're going to branch off of master, make a change, add the change, commit the change, push the change, submit a PR, or if you're on GitLab, merge request an MR. Somebody's going to review it, pull it in, or ask you for other fixes, and then you'll push those up. And then once that's done, you'll sync your repository back up. So by doing this each day, you'll kind of get used to just typing out the commands, and they'll become a lot more familiar to you and a lot less weird. And that should help a little bit. If there's interest, we can do kind of like a 151 lab in a couple weeks' time. We can pick this up again. Start from here, and then see if we can introduce some errors like conflicts, and then work through those, practice rebasing, that sort of thing. I don't know how interesting that is to the rest of the group. I imagine that this is kind of overloady as it is. So if we want to just kind of practice on this for a while, that's fine too. Is there any questions, any stuff you'd like to see more of? Anything that you'd like to kind of get a better handle on? Anything you'd like me to talk more about before breaking again?
Just make sure you have those follow along.
Yeah.
Those really help. Because I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but like the young lady over here, I didn't want to slow anybody down because I knew I could do it.
Sure.
You were just going fast, and it took my mind to process it.
That's my bad too for going faster than I should.
No, you had a lot to get through tonight, but the follow along sheet kept me up to speed. So.
Yeah, I'll see about doing like another lesson plan in the written format first, and so then we'll go from there. But I think this kata should help folks kind of get used to doing the actions. Those of you who don't know, you can find me on the Twitters. Twitter with 2 T's. You can find me here, Barbarian KB. I'm on the internet all over the place, everywhere else, literally everywhere else, as Michael T. Lombardi. You can find me on every Slack.
The picture was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
You look so.
I look so mad.
So different than you are in person.
Yeah. So that's I guess kind of where we're going to leave the lesson for tonight. Now, I didn't explain any of the underlying magic of how Git works, and the reason that I didn't do that is that you don't need to know. In the same sense, like if you're trying to, so we were talking about this outside earlier, if you're trying to teach somebody how to ride a bike, you don't start with the physics of gyroscopic motion and trying to explain, here's how, you stay up when you're on the bike, and here's, when you go to make a turn, the bike's going to angle slightly, and you're going to want to offset that with your body. You don't do any of that because they'll crash and get hurt, because that's nonsense. They don't need to know that to ride the bike. You put them on the bike, and you're like, okay, so pedal and move forward and try to, kind of feel it out, stay stable, right? And you walk them through it, and they'll crash a couple times, and over time they'll learn how to ride the bike, and then they won't need you anymore.
Or hit a mailbox.
Or hit a mailbox, whatever. It's the same thing with swimming, right? Has anybody taught somebody how to swim? Ever? Did you start by being like, here's how buoyancy works? Let me talk to you about physics. Because I feel like that might not be a good way to keep people from drowning. It's like, oh, is he drowning in the middle of my physics lecture? That's a completely unexpected, or maybe it's on purpose. I'm giving a physics lecture. It could be. So I think that's all we have. Is there any questions or final stuff off the stream? I assume not. Okay. Well, then we will go ahead wrap up here. Again, I'm happy to do one-on-one stuff, or if you want me to work with your team or whatever, I'm happy to do that kind of stuff too. This is one of the things that I think is going to be most critical for us as folks doing sysadmin or operations type work. This is not at all, no. And here's a hill that I'll die on. A couple of people have heard my stance on this before. Who in this room has written a text file that has changed the state of production? That could be a function. It could be a script. It could be a command that you wrote, because that's technically like a micro text file. Has anybody done those things? I need a show of hands real quick.
A text file?
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be if it's a config file. Have you ever edited like a web config? Have you ever changed something in a database? Have you ever run literally any shell command? Right? Right. Like, that's all of us, right? So here's the thing. That's development work, right? Writing text that changes production is development work. So it's on us whether or not we want to take on some of the discipline that they've got around how they manage those changes and they manage the state of their environments. You don't have to do everything just like them, but they do have some good workflows. Source control is one of those workflows, and it's going to get more and more important for us as time goes on, right? Right now, if you're greenfielding an environment, you're probably not pointing and clicking your way through everything. You're using Terraform and you're using Packer, and you've got a bunch of other tools together that are going to do a lot of automation. And then what's going to happen is it's like, oh man, that environment's broke. Boop, boop. Oh man, I delivered a whole new version of that environment. That sure was hard. It's a good thing that I codified it all in plain text. But sometimes you'll have a problem where you'll have set up that automation and something will be wrong. Right? And what you want to be able to do is revert, which is something that source control gives you. Source control is also going to give you history. So if Jeff and I are on a team, because I see him nodding a lot, he's a friendly face for this. If Jeff and I are on a team, and that's your name, right? I didn't fuck that. Good. Woo! That would have been super embarrassing. It's like, Jeff and I are on a team, he doesn't even know my name. Jeez, is a good teammate. So if we're on a team and I take off Thursday, Friday, and there's a critical error and we have to change the way that we set up and manage our web servers, when I come in on Monday and I go and I'm looking through what's changed in our environment, I see, well, why are the web servers different? What I want to be able to do is go back through and see the commits to the changes to the configurations that Jeff made, and he'll have something in there be like, prior to this commit, the web servers were hitting these resource limits and these problems happened, so I changed it to this for these reasons. You can see more information in this ticket. This relates back to these Zendesk tickets filed by these customers for these reasons, yada, yada, yada. So I'll be able to see all that history and then understand why the change was made. More importantly, when Alana joins our team in a year and she's like, your IIS configs are stupid. Why are they done like this? We'll be like, okay, well, there is a reason. She'll be like, sure there is. And then we can show her and be like, here it is.
It may still be stupid, but there was a
It
reason
might be
for
stupid,
it.
but we did it for a reason, right? And so you can go back and you can see that history. Because we've all joined teams, I guarantee, I don't even have to ask this time. We've all joined teams where we're like, why is that way? And they're like, well, the thing is there was this problem this one time, and we had to solve it, so we did, and now we just always do it this way. It's like, has anybody checked to see if that problem still exists? Well, no one is alive who remembers what the problem was,
Right.
so we can't change it in case it didn't go away. So that's just the way it is now. That's why we have this registry key on every server. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Right? That stuff exists in every environment. So what source control is going to give you is better insight and better control over those things, and kind of that ability to see across history, to see where changes came from, how they got into your system, and then sunset those changes too, right? If you know where they came from, you know when you can get rid of them. So I think this is going to become more and more critical for our profession, and I'm really serious about helping folks kind of get a leg up on it, because there's not a lot being done, especially for Windows operators. Or Windows adjacent operators. There's not a whole lot of care and attention paid to this sort of thing. So consider me available. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me my email is michael.t.lombardi@outlook or Gmail. Both work. You can find me on Slack. I'm in the PowerShell Slack. A couple other Slacks. So just hit me up wherever you can find me, or message me through Meetup, and I'll work something out with you. We'll figure some stuff out. Otherwise, have a great night. Thanks for staying so long. I know this was a really long session, a really long workshop.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.